This is Comic Geek Speak episode 1806, the CGS Best of 2020 Awards Results Show, plus comic talk.
There we go, and boom.
I'm Adam Murdo.
I'm Kevin Moyer.
I'm Ian Levinstein.
I'm Shane Kelly.
And I'm Chris Eberly.
Starting to have Mego envy over here.
Nice. I still have mine, Chris. I still have all my Migos.
I have one Spider-Man Migo that has survived.
I have a bunch of Pops, but I don't have any Migos, unfortunately.
Yeah. Those of you who are listening to the audio-only version missed Chris having his Falcon Mego doll doing a little maneuvers in front of his webcam as we listen to the theme music.
Yeah, all I had was classified Snake Eyes to jump out.
It's a fine contribution, my friend.
Yes. Although I do know that there's at least like 2 giant bins of toys still at my mom's from when I was a kid, including like an old Cyclops figure from like that old Marvel superheroes run, a Wolverine where I lost the removable helmet years ago. And, the list goes on that one. But and a bunch of wrestling toys because I have at least 2 Hulk Hogans. I know that.
The toy wreckage of childhood.
Never had wrestling.
Yeah, never. You just had everything else.
Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Mask, Transformers, never any wrestling.
And on that note, welcome all, one and all, to the show. And we got a twofer for you today in some ways, as we will indeed be revealing the best of 2020 results on this very episode. And then we'll go ahead and get ourselves into some good old-fashioned comic talk like we do, because there's a lot of stuff to discuss, including when we do get there, the rest of the gents' opinions on Zack Snyder's Justice League, and also some Falcon and Winter Soldier. We got a bunch of stuff to discuss on this episode. But first, of course, we turn it over to you, and that is what you do for us, and that is be our patrons over at patreon.com/Comic Geek Speak. You, that's right, you, the listeners, keep this show running, and we are very, very happy for it. Without you, we would not be doing what we're doing, and we are now over the 100 patron mark. We are now at 104 patrons at $309 per month. And
nice.
Cheers to that.
Bravo, thank
every
you.
single way.
Thank you.
To that.
Thanks a lot, guys. That's awesome.
It is beyond amazing that we have the support that we do from you loyal listeners, and you keep the show running, and you keep us going, and we are more than grateful for that. So anybody who can contribute even $1 a month over at patreon.com/Comic Geek Speak, you're the best. And we thank you very much for your support. All right. And with that, let's start with some awards, shall we?
Well, actually, before we do that, let's take a moment to issue a hearty hail fellow to our long-absent brother-in-arms, Kevin Moyer, who's doing this episode.
That is true. What? Yes. Yeah. First time we've seen you on an episode since the 15th anniversary of Super Zoom.
Damn. For sure. Well, hey, it's a privilege to be with y'all. So I mean that. I'm glad that I was able to, work this out to be able to be on. I'd like to be on as much as I can. So I appreciate it. And it's great to be with you guys. So,
always welcome to have you, brother.
Always have fun.
Great to have you.
Yep. Yeah.
Soon enough, you'll have some Moon Knight TV to talk about as we're getting closer and closer to that film.
Oh, come on. I was in a good mood.
I had to do it. But hey, Oscar Isaac, that's a step.
Hey, like I said, the proof is in the pudding. I'm certainly not prejudging anything.
Okay.
As things arise, I'll certainly obviously give it my, once, twice over, whatever. But yeah, I'm open to it. I hope it is great. I really do. So.
I really do too. Yep. So far, so good on the Disney Plus front. I'll say that much.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Yep, definitely. Alrighty. So, Murd, you have painstakingly gone over the results, and we have ourselves some winners.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And and this election is it's at least as secure, I think, as the presidential one this year. There's no steel to stop this time around. Don't worry. It's
That is true. Yes.
not that there was the first time either, but
Yes.
So yes,
tabulated and tabulated and tabulated.
Yes. It's all been carefully notarized and whatnot, and so we do have winners now in each of the 16 categories in which you, the listeners, cast your votes, and we thank you very much for having done so. We gave you an extra week, and we did squeeze a few more ballots out of you by doing that. And there are definite winners for every category. No ties this year, which is always nice.
Oh, wow.
Keep things nice and neat.
Nice.
And so, we've got the different awards in their virtual envelopes sitting on the desks of my fellow geeks here and on my own desk over here to my left. So let's begin the countdown here. Chris, I think we start off with you. And the first award of the night is the Best New Hero or Hero Team of 2020.
Happy to oblige, brother. The nominees were D-Cell from the Juggernaut Mini, Gwen Stacy, Owen Johnson from Kirkman's Firepower, and Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy. And the winner is Owen Johnson is the winner.
Yep, who was the listener's choice after all. And this category was pretty much a two-horse race. It was between Owen Johnson and Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy. And even though I'm the one who nominated that twosome, I'm actually a little bit relieved that they came in runner-up because they're on the ballot by a technicality. Strictly speaking, they were introduced in mid-December of 2019 and shouldn't even have been eligible. So
no, that's fair. That's fair. But I mean, technicalities are my favorite thing.
You are technically correct. The best kind of correct.
Exactly.
Congratulations to Kirkman and Somni and their protagonist Owen Johnson from Firepower.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I've still only read the Weed Up graphic novel, and I need to actually get into the main series, but I'm very much looking forward to doing so. All right, over to Best New Villain or Villain Team that debuted in 2020. And our choices are The Ghostmaker, The New Monster Society of Evil, Professor Charles Xavier, and Punchline. And the winner is Professor Charles Xavier.
Yep, he was Chris's nominee, and a lot of the listeners, as I predicted they would, really liked the idea because he won by a very large margin.
Wow.
So I guess congratulations to Professor Xavier for having been reclassified as a villain by fandom assembled.
I mean, I guess, what do you say to the guy who founded the X-Men being called a villain? I mean, I guess good for you.
Did good stuff before.
Exactly. The 2020s.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Shane, we'll throw it over to you to hear about the third award of the night.
Best New Ongoing Comic, first issue shipped in 2020. The nominees are Department of Truth, Iron Man, Norse Mythology, and X Factor. And the winner is Iron Man. Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. Kevin, have you read that series?
No, I follow the artist on Instagram, and he's always posting stuff from it, and I like his art. And I'm aware of the covers and the premise of the book, but I have not read it yet. But it looks good. I mean,
highest recommendation.
Very high.
I'm intrigued to give it a whirl. So, and with obviously your endorsement, that makes me even more intrigued. So
yeah, I have to queue that up on my app.
Written by rising star Christopher Cantwell and covers by Alex Ross, and there's a big Korvac storyline.
Korvac,
wow.
Nice. Wow, blast from the past.
Yep. Nice. Oh yeah, no, he's going very deep into the villain well in many.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. Runner-up in that category was Department of Truth, which I believe was the listener's choice, but the majority of the listenership voted with Chris and made Iron Man the best new comic of 2020.
Fair enough.
Okay. And category number 4, kind of a broad field in this one, Best Limited Series of 2020, the final issue of which had to have been published in 2020. The nominees there are Batman 3 Jokers, Gotham City Monsters, the Juggernaut Mini by Nicieza and, was it Ron Garney?
Yes, Garney.
Yes, Gordon.
Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, Wonder Woman Dead Earth, and X-Men Fantastic Four. And among those 6 nominees, the big winner this time out is Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen.
Wow.
Ow.
From the mind of Matt Fraction, and an artist. I absolutely don't know who did the art on that, actually. I haven't read that yet. I've waited for the trade on it, and the trade is in my possession. I just haven't cracked it open yet. But from what I've heard, it does combine a lot of classic silly Superman Silver Age fun in some new and interesting ways.
Huh.
I would call that a dark horse pick. I was not expecting that to be the
No.
pick.
No,
I wouldn't either.
Yeah,
no.
It
Steve,
wasn't
But
even
it's
the clear
Fraction,
favorite
though.
among
It's
the listeners.
Fraction.
that's true.
It is Fraction, yes, which is definitely a mark in its favor. But it was one
And
of
like Murd, I have it too. I have to read it.
Mhm.
Murd, it's Steve Lieber on the art.
Oh, all right. Yeah, but despite its having been tied in the listener voting with several other things, this is the one that dominated at the polls. So, congratulations to Superman's pal Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that brings us back to Chris now.
All right, best single issue / one shot. The nominees are Dark Knight's Death Metal: The Secret Origin, Detective Comics issue number 1027, Giant Size X-Men Jean Grey and Emma Frost, Immortal Hulk: The Threshing Place, Marvel Snapshot Submariner, Marvel Snapshots X-Men, and Star Trek Hell's Mirror. And the winner is Detective Comics issue 1027.
Wow.
Wow.
That
Cool.
surprises me too.
Yeah. Now, the voting was very tight in this category. I mean,
Mhm.
there's another very large field, and the voting was pretty evenly spread out. The first place through fourth place vote getters were separated by a mere 4 votes.
Oh wow.
So it could have gone either way. Also, neck and neck there in the running were Marvel Snapshot Submariner, Immortal Hulk: The Threshing Place, and the Giant Size X-Men Jean Grey and Emma Frost one-shot. But Detective number 1027 just edged them all out. It was a supersized package with a lot of great creators working on it. A little something for everyone. I guess that's what gave it the edge here.
Yes,
That gets the laurels for best single issue or one-shot of 2020.
Fair enough. All right, moving over to best cliffhanger or moment. The nominees are the Batman Who Laughs becomes the Darkest Night from Dark Knight's Death Metal number 2. Dr. Doom's Parting Atrocity in Dr. Doom number 10. I love how that was worded.
Best I could come up with. I don't know what actually happens at the end of that issue.
Oh, I know.
Not to spoil it, but does that wording apply?
It's perfect, Murd. It's perfect.
Excellent.
Elektra becomes Daredevil in Daredevil number 25. And the reemergence of Dr. Donald Blake in Thor number 9. And the winner, Elektra becomes Daredevil in Daredevil number 25.
Wow.
What?
You heard it here first. Yeah.
Fake
Zdarsky's
news.
Daredevil is getting a lot of love in a number of different categories this year. So
Yeah.
That's Zdarsky.
I mean, that's an
Yeah.
Eisner Award winning book.
Yeah. Yeah. He's pumped a lot of life into that book, which is good.
Yep.
And the moment of Elektra becoming DD was the listener's choice this time, but Dr. Doom's Parting Atrocity and the reemergence of Donald Blake were nipping at its heels for the runner-up slot.
Very good.
Okay. Best storyline within a series or across multiple series. Nominees are Dark Knight's Death Metal, Dr. Doom's Quest, My Little Pony Season 10, and X of Swords. The winner is Dr. Doom's Quest.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Chris, I have got to snap up those trades at my first opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend them, brother. Highly recommend. In fact, if you want, next time I see you, I have them. I can lend them to you.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, Chris.
You bet.
What about the My Little Pony ones? I want
Well, I'll tell you, Dark Knight's Death Metal and X of Swords were tied for second place, but My Little Pony actually did not get 0 votes.
I told you. I told you.
A small handful of them. No, perhaps they were ironic. Perhaps they were just listeners supporting me and voting my conscience here. But whatever, or maybe they were sincere. Maybe they were people who, like me, liked the idea of a 10th comic book form season of the Pony cartoon. But anyway, it got a few votes, and I was very gratified.
Hey, why ask why?
Yep, that's right. I'm not going to question it.
Yeah.
I'm happy to say that only one thing on the entire ballot got 0 votes. There was a little bit of love spread around almost everything.
Excellent.
I do like to see that.
Yes, indeed.
All right, which brings us up to the best sleeper or surprise hit of 2020, which is often a slightly difficult category to pin down. The nominees this year were Crossover, Far Sector, Philadelphia, and Stillwater. Kind of an image-heavy category this year. And the winner in that category this year is Stillwater.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's another Zdarsky opus, isn't it?
It sure is.
Yep. How much Cantwell and Zdarsky can you fit into an award?
Let's find out.
Stay tuned.
Yes. Congratulations.
Golden 3.
Congratulations to Zdarsky and company for that. And the runner-up there was actually Far Sector. So a little bit of something for DC there as well.
Yep.
Okay.
My next Murd?
Yes, you are, sir.
All right. Number 9 is Best Ongoing Comic, a series that need not have begun publication in 2020. Nominees are Daredevil, Guardians of the Galaxy, Star Wars, and Young Justice. And the winner is Daredevil.
Sweet.
By a freaking landslide, I don't
Wow.
know. It received more than 50% of the total vote.
Nice.
Oh my God, wow.
Nice.
Wow.
All right. I gotta read past issue 6 because
Me too. You know, I was about to say the same thing.
Yep. So it's tied with one other category coming up for biggest winner of the night. So
Wow. It's great to hear.
Mm-hmm. All right, over to best graphic novel, which would be an original graphic novel or a collection. The nominees are Bowie's Stardust, Ray Guns, and Moon Age Daydreams, Everything Volume 1, Pulp, and Reckless. And the winner is Pulp.
Nice.
yeah, the Brubaker Phillips criminal contingent was out in force during this year's awards voting, and I thought there was a chance that Pulp and Reckless might split the vote and cancel each other out, but not so. Pulp won handily.
Very good. All right, Shane, over to you.
All right. Best writer. Nominees are Ed Brubaker, Christopher Cantwell, Al Ewing, and Chip Zdarsky. And the winner is Chip Zdarsky.
Mm-hmm.
Wowzers.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
By Ed Brubaker by like 2 or 3 noses
Mhm.
to take the Best Writer award for the second year in a row.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
I'm sensing a theme. I'm sensing a theme.
Right.
Ah,
Okay, and whoop, I don't know what's. Yeah, I'm looking at my little. This you can't see it very well on screen, but it's this little netbook is what I've been using the last few years to compile the results for these awards, and it's glitching on me a little bit, so I just but I got it back, and now I'm ready to reveal the winner of the Best Artist of 2020 award. The nominees there are Cafu, Martin Morazzo, Sean Phillips, and Chris Samney. And the winner of the Best Artist Award this year is Chris Samney.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Excellent. One of my picks won something. All right.
It's a sense of accomplishment, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Hey, you got 2 picks, Ian. You got 2.
What was the other one?
Firepower.
Oh,
that-
right. That's
Yeah.
true. That's true. Yeah. Yep.
But that was the Owen Johnson, like the
Oh,
winner
no.
of the That was the listener's choice.
That was the listener's choice.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I was trying to build up your ego. I apologize.
No, it's fine. I mean, Somni is firepower, so that's a-okay with me.
Mhm.
All right. So number 13 is Best Writer / Artist. So the whole kit and caboodle. The nominees are Mike Allred, Daniel Warren Johnson, Terry Moore, and Chip Zdarsky. And the winner is Terry Moore.
Yep.
Yep. Again, for the second year in a row. Yep. And I kind of thought Zdarsky would be a little closer on his heels than he was, but nope. Moore was kind of all by himself on the top of the heap. The other three, roughly the same number of votes down below him.
Yeah. I mean, he already won Best Writer. I mean, that would have just been a bit much.
I must agree.
All right, over to Best Color Artist. And the nominees are Jordi Belair, Gabe El-Taib, Martheus Lopez, depending on who you ask, Tomu Mori, Jacob Phillips, and Matt Wilson. And the winner is Jordi Belair.
Nice.
Yep, making her return to the balloting for the first time in a couple of years, and everybody stood up and took notice, apparently, because
Oh, that's great.
yeah, she won by kind of a lot.
She's always been solidly consistent. She's extremely talented. I love her stuff.
Absolutely. Yep.
It was I who nominated her this year. I just every time I looked at Bendis's Legion of Superheroes, I mean, it was her futuristic hues that really drew me in.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's fantastic on that book.
Yeah.
Okay. Best letterer. Aditya Bidikar. Did I pronounce that right? Aditya Bidikar. Clayton Cowles, Todd Klein, Tom Napolitano, Corey Pettit, and Sean Phillips. And the winner is Clayton Cowles.
All right.
Another 2-year-in-a-row winner in that category.
Wow.
Although Sean Phillips, again for the criminal stuff, the pulp and the reckless, he was a close second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the final award of the evening, as the coveted Breakthrough Talent of 2020 award. I can promise you, it's neither Tom King nor Chip Zdarsky winning in this category. They've had their shots. Hopefully, literally by now. Let's see. Breakthrough Talent. The nominees are Juan Cabal, Christopher Cantwell, Elena Casagrande, and N.K. Jemisin. And the big winner there is, and this is the other major landslide victory, the other other winner by more than half of the popular vote is Christopher Cantwell.
Yep.
Okay.
And a note, he won it this year. He can't win it next.
He must be ruled ineligible.
Exactly. We'll even write that on the ballot when we write it up next year. Like, you win it once, you're officially broken through. That's it.
Yes, there's no multiple ceilings here. It's
Exactly.
Murd, brother, thanks one again for helming this.
Mm-hmm.
It's an annual pleasure, Chris. I really do love doing this, getting to hear what all the listeners have to say about the comics that they've read and loved in the course of a year, and it's my pleasure. I thank them actually profusely for having participated here and cluing us in to some great reads, so that we in turn can clue the rest of the listenership in to some great reads, both on our behalf and on the behalf of those who made their nominations via email. So thanks everyone for participating in this process, and congratulations to all the great creators and books that have won these immaterial awards once again. May you gain some new readers as a result of it.
And I'll tell you, I also learn a little bit more about my fellow hosts every time we do these awards as well, because not everything gets brought up on a Comic Talk. There's other stuff that we wind up mentioning that always manages to surprise me. And I know that there were a few that I mentioned and that others mentioned that immediately went down on like the list of things to upcoming read. So, well done.
All right, now let's get ourselves to the after party. Roll the credits, play the John Williams medley. It's time to talk some comics and comic-related media.
Make my grab bag and head to the after party.
Right.
I should have had the Oscar music queued up again for us to play us out after this. But let us begin with some industry news, as we did touch on it when DC left Diamond. And there was some big news this week. There was some huge news this week. Marvel is officially going to Penguin Random House.
Yep.
And I mean, this is a huge news. It's not that Diamond will not have Marvel Comics to distribute. It's just they will no longer be the wholesale distributor of Marvel Comics. Essentially, Diamond will have to get it from Penguin and then send it to stores if you have a Diamond account.
Wow.
And this was a long time coming, and it's a major, major change in the industry.
Now, can stores go to Penguin directly?
They can, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they can. They essentially have that option. They can either, they can keep their Diamond account open and, buy them from there. But apparently the discounts are going to be comparable. It's just you're either getting it from the source or you're waiting for Diamond to get them and then send them to you.
Yeah.
Are you saying the discounts are going to be terrible from either one?
No. I believe they're going to be comparable.
Comparable. Okay.
Yes, comparable, not terrible.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I apparently hung my word there, but yeah, there may even be better discounts. To be entirely honest with you, I don't know whether or not that's going to be the case directly from Penguin versus with Diamond, but Penguin's huge. Diamond has always been struggling to keep afloat, even when they were at their highest, and Penguin Random House is everywhere. I mean, they're in bookstores, they're online, they're 2 stores, and now this just adds a further push for them to go directly in the comic shops like this. So it's going to be very interesting to see where this goes.
I wonder if Marvel's also thinking more about a more efficient distribution of trades and OGNs and things like that.
Yeah,
more floppies and
probably.
Yeah. More than likely the case. This just further proves to me as well just how badly Diamond dropped the ball during COVID. And there were multiple ways they could have went about it. They could have informed shops that they were closing. They could have let them know, just so you're being warned, more than likely for the sake of our workers and for the sake of distribution, we're going to have to shut down for a little while. If there's nothing that we can do about it, we're just going to go ahead and do it. Instead, they just shut down without warning to any of the real companies that work with them, nor the shops, and they were left in the lurch. And I think we're really seeing the ramifications of that. Like had they given them any sort of warning, and again, we know, COVID was crazy and still is crazy. So you never knew when things were going to wind up happening and things were going to wind up changing, but when you're that big of a distributor for books and you literally have stuff sitting in your warehouse that you cannot ship because you shut your warehouse without any real warning, there's going to be ramifications.
Now, Ian, let me ask you, because this will happen long after I got out of the game, but are you saying that Diamond did not give any kind of notice to its customers that they were ceasing operations for a period of time?
Their notice was the notice we all saw. At least that's from what I've been hearing. That when we got the announcement online, that's when a lot of shops and companies got the announcement.
Okay. Well, let me just say this, because I don't want to use the term "did business" because that sounds too polished and nice. So let's say I dealt with Diamond for 18 years.
Sure.
And nothing you're describing is surprising, because even long before any like the DC leaving, all this kind of stuff, I mean, there were some nice people I dealt with individually, but as a whole, it was not a company that was designed, or I shouldn't say designed, that was interested in making life easier for its clients. So and you know why? Well, it's very obvious why, because it was a monopoly and they didn't give a shit.
Exactly.
So, they of course they would say they did, but the proof is in your actions, which were consistently made my life difficult and gave me all kinds of agita.
Right.
So,
and as much overhead as they had on the publishing end of, the amount of money that they pulled in per book is ridiculous. So I remember when checking into self-publishing, 20 years ago, and I could not believe what their take was on publishing a book, and I was like, that's ridiculous.
Yep. Well, here's some of the news that came out from this initial announcement, and I'm looking specifically at the Comic Speed article, because it seemed to be one of the more in-depth versions of it. The discount is technically going down by 5% for larger stores. Before this, Diamond offered a 55% discount, if not more, to larger stores, while 50% was the norm for everybody else. It's just going to be straight 50% moving forward. However, Penguin Random House offers 100% free shipping.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's huge.
Does it say what discount Penguin is offering directly?
This is Penguin's discount that I'm discussing. Which means that Diamond will have a similar discount. Diamond also had a 3% restocking fee for graphic novels. Many shops already switched to traditional book distributors who ship reorders free, and this will gradually entice retailers to set up their accounts with Penguin Random House, where this 3% doesn't seem to be the case either. So yeah, I think overall they're offering some pretty good terms for shops, and it's certainly going to entice plenty to just straight up, if not say goodbye to Diamond, then lower their orders significantly.
Well, Diamond will still be distributing like Image and
Sure,
Boom and IDW. I would assume there's other companies.
Right. Image also distributes by themselves. I know, like you can get direct from Image. I don't know if it's as in large a stock as you can get from Diamond, but they do direct distribution. That was as of, I think, like a couple of years ago, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I think it had to happen. that's pretty much it. It just had to happen, and the timing was right. So
long overdue, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yep. And we'll just have to see, what it's like over the next couple of months and possibly even the next year or so. Just what happens and whether or not we're seeing even a further shift and more people shacking up with Penguin Random House, and
sure,
if previews is suddenly going to wind up coming out of them, are we going to start seeing more and more individual previews that we're going to have to cobble together via PDF from our previous episodes? I know. It's going to be an interesting couple of months here, to say the least. But yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Meanwhile, also discussing news and changes, something that I'd say we kind of all saw coming wound up happening with Black Widow. It didn't matter how often Marvel and DC and Disney were saying, no, it's just going to go straight out to theaters, and then we're just going to go ahead and have our traditional run. Everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. It's going to come out in May. Everything's going to be fine. Black Widow's coming out in July, and it's coming out directly to Disney Plus via Premier Access and also to theaters. And this is the way it has to happen.
Yeah. Now, generally, I wouldn't pay for something like that, but again, it's all in what I'm interested in. I'm interested in Black Widow. If I was to take the boys to it, we pay a heck of a lot more than $30 to go see it.
Right.
So we're gonna set up a movie night and pay the $30 to get to watch Black Widow for as much as we can, for as long as we can, and I'll be perfectly happy with that.
Well, even
Not
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kevin.
Not me. Obviously, for me, it doesn't work. There's no way that I will spend $30 to watch a movie. I mean, there's no movie that would entice me to spend that much money. So it's just going to be something I'm going to have to wait for, and
it'll be in the theater simultaneously, my friend.
Yeah,
I know. I thought about that, and I like going to the theater. I mean,
I do too.
Experience. So I mean, I look forward to it, and I'm not opposed to doing so. And that's most likely what I will do. But yeah, I mean, and I get it. I especially like Shane, and I saw Deemer and other people posting. You have a family of 4 or something like that. Absolutely, it makes perfect sense. But yeah, somebody like me, it doesn't make sense. So.
Yeah, if I'm the only one watching it, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Well, the other people,
I say that respectfully because how can you do it otherwise? What alternatives?
Yeah.
So I understand why they're doing it. It's just obviously it's not formidable or functionable for everyone.
Sure.
So yeah, and then somebody else has suggested something with the premium, I guess, or whatever, what that would cost in the area. I don't know, but
I spent the $30 for Rhea, and I sat down and I watched it because I was looking forward to watching Rhea and the Last Dragon. I happen to have a few friends over to watch it, so like to me that sort of softened the blow because it was kind of like,
Right.
this is what it would have cost to go to theaters for all of us. So like, they all put in for food and what have you, and then that was that. But one of the benefits of Premier Access, I mean, if you want to call it a benefit, is that any profile on your Disney Plus account has access to that. So if you share with, say, like, like I share with my mother, my mother's logged into Disney Plus. She can watch Raya whenever she wants, even though I'm the one who bought it. And a decent amount of people do have that sort of sharing going on, where like they'll have like their their cousin or their best friend or what have you also using their Disney Plus account, and that sort of softens the blow a little bit. If you're one person using Disney Plus, $30 doesn't make any sense unless you're going to watch it 3 times.
Right. And I doubt that. And I doubt I'm going to do that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I know I'll probably watch it at least twice, and it'll be once with the boys at least, and then maybe once myself. And if we get a third time or the boys want to watch it or something down the road, however long it's accessible for it, that's great. But yeah, I'll do it for this.
I, for one, am looking forward to finally having a CGS movie review of a first release movie.
Yeah.
It's been a long time, gentlemen.
It's been a very long time.
You're very right. Yes. Yeah. And for that matter, I'm vaccinated, so I might.
I just got my first shot today.
Nice.
Right. Oh, good.
Go, Kevin.
Well done, Kevin. Well done.
Thanks.
But that also makes me wonder. Come July, I was already thinking about doing it in May. I was already thinking of going to an early show or taking off of work that day so I could go to like a 2 p.m. showing where there's not that many people there, and I just go ahead and see the movie. I may be even more inclined to do that come July. We'll see.
Sure.
So yeah, it gives people extra options, and it's what Disney had to do because society is not back yet. So it just makes fiscal sense more than anything else.
Sure. I agree. I mean, I totally agree. And I'm the same. And I'm the same thing. I mean, my whole approach to, these, since the superhero movies have been coming out, has been that like I will intentionally, structure my workday so I can get out, no later than like 3 o'clock or so to grab a 4 o'clock show.
Oh, sure.
Beat the crowd, and be able to see it opening day. And it's always worked out. So that's something that obviously I would be, intrigued to do as well.
Yeah, and we've been going for any of these big shows. We've been going at like, I don't know, 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday or Sunday, whenever the early show is. I love going in then. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, that would be cool too. Sure.
A lot of theaters too have been offering like 30% discounts for their earliest shows. So like even if it is matinee price, I've been seeing like AMC has been offering discount upon discount to try to get you to go early. So that may still very well be the case come July. We'll see. But Murd, I assume you're going to theaters for this.
Well, by July I'll be in Stone Harbor. I am just going to bop across the street to the cinema, the Harbor Theater and Burger Bar. I'm going to buy one ticket for less than $30, and I will see the movie that way.
Yeah.
Even though by then I will have access to Disney Plus on a large screen television, I'm still going to make that choice.
Oh yeah.
So I'm in the Kevin camp here.
That makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm not expecting a full packed theater, if that's what I end up doing. So, I mean, it's, we'll see how things, play out in the next couple of months. But, I don't see, I don't know. Who the hell knows at this point? But I mean, I don't see like, sold out showings, but it could possibly be. I don't know.
I mean,
what would sold out showings mean? I don't know, what the theaters are going to be willing to do in 2 months, 3 months. So.
I mean, vaccine rollout here in New York is now 30 and above. So, there's more and more people who have access to it. Obviously, it varies by state, but, rollout is happening. And, who's to say what it's going to be like by July? We shall.
Yeah, I only got my shot because I was on the list for extras. And that's the only reason I got it, because I actually went to sign up early in the week, and Pennsylvania's still at 1A. So, which doesn't surprise me, freaking PA. But I did see there was an article, a news thing from Pittsburgh today that said that I think all Pennsylvanians will be available to get vaccinated on April 19th or something like that.
Yep, so, they're accelerating a couple things over the next couple weeks so that by April 19th.
2+ weeks, so that way all people, all Pennsylvania residents would be accessible to the vaccination. So
but
we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. We'll definitely see. And I mean, this did push back a bunch of other releases as well.
Shang-Chi.
Yep, Shang-Chi got pushed back. Did Eternals get pushed back too?
I don't know, actually.
Let me actually click on the article just to make sure about that, because let's see, Eternals.
Your cub reporter on the spot, ladies and gentlemen.
Eternals. Okay, Eternals is actually not coming out now until 2021, I believe.
Yeah, I thought I read that as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait, do you mean 2022?
No. I'm sorry. It's still expected November 5th.
November.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought it was November. Yeah.
November 5th. Yep. So
right, 2020 did end. That's right.
That is true. I have no idea what day of the week it is.
What was Shang-Chi's original?
I thought that was July.
It was in the summertime. Yep.
Yes.
I haven't heard anything about that. Have they filmed it? I mean,
yeah,
did. I saw on a Lego site I go on, there was a box reveal for one of the sets, and you can see.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That's the only thing I've seen of it so far.
What do they show in the image?
I haven't heard anything. You know what I mean? It's kind of one of those things. I haven't. I mean, it's not like, it's not been in the spotlight, or there hasn't been a lot of attention drawn to the filming or anything like that.
September 3rd.
They show Shang-Chi on the one side, and they show whatever the set is, and that's it. It's fairly easy to find. If you just Google Shang-Chi Lego set, it'll pop right up.
Right.
Which means we should really be getting a trailer for this sometime within a few weeks, because with the September release, they're going to have to start promoting it sooner than later.
Yeah.
I think they probably waited just not knowing when Black Widow was going to happen and whether or not Shang-Chi was going to get delayed again. Because, I mean, I still remember, right before this all happened, the first trailer for the new Fast and the Furious came out. I was like, yeah, Fast and Furious. And now it's been a year.
Well, and I guess, you have to take into consideration too, with the way especially the Marvel Cinematic Universe is set up, one thing leads to another. They all kind of work congruently in creating a larger, timeline, connective, tissue, so to speak, so, I mean, they can't delay it for too long because it's going to interrupt, other things eventually, they would stumble over each other. So, they had to do something, unfortunately, I guess you could say, they had to do something. They had to make a decision and make a choice, but I think they made the right one. So.
I just wish they had made this decision a while ago rather than, toe the line as long as they did. Cause I knew they were going to for the investor call, because
why do you think it would have been better to do so?
I think, well, for me as a consumer, I prefer knowing exactly when stuff is going to wind up happening. And we knew that by May, things were not going to be back to normal.
So it's all about you, is what you're saying.
Exactly. It's always all about me. But still though, I just feel like, I don't know, Disney may have actually gotten more goodwill from its consumers had they just been real about it and been like, all right, we said it was going to come out in May, we're going to do July, and also the continuing to double down on we're not doing Disney Plus to then suddenly be like, we're doing Disney Plus too was not the best of messages. I think they could have been.
I take it all into stride as far as nature of the beast. I mean, I think they were being very hopeful that, things would have, obviously, in January, we saw a change on how things were being progressed, and it has, continued to, grow in that fashion. So it's been very positive. And I just think that they were hoping that, things would roll out, in a more timely fashion, and then they wouldn't have to. But, again, with all the factors involved, I just think, they finally just accepted that that's just what they're going to have to do.
Yeah.
But
fair enough. So what have we learned? It's all about me. All right.
That's right.
And that was already, Black Widow was already delayed a whole year to begin with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, so was everything. I mean, that's why, when WandaVision came out, I mean, we said this on our review episode that, it's supposed to tie directly into, Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange isn't coming out until next year.
Yeah.
So that's just the way the cookie crumbles, unfortunately. Yep.
Yeah.
It'll all work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Oh yeah, definitely, absolutely. We'll still have.
I mean, especially now that these Disney Plus series have rolled out.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're getting you know what I mean. You're getting continuous content.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's not like the past year where it's been a void. So
Yep.
So I mean, you're really not being starved much of content wise. So
I'll tell you, with the Disney series in general, Mandalorian, WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and even this Mighty Ducks thing that's out there, which I am interested to watch because I enjoyed the movies when I was younger. It really has shown me how easy it is, and I enjoyed it before, how much easier it is to just stream whatever I want when I want, because I was totally oblivious at first to Superman and Lois starting, to Flash's new season starting, because it is on the CW app, but it's only on the app the day after it airs on TV, which is perfectly fine.
Right.
I just don't even look at a TV anymore. I don't look at a schedule or nothing. I just go to the app and boop, bring up what I want to watch.
Right.
So I was totally like 4 or 5 episodes behind on each series before I even realized they were out. And now I just stream them when I want, but still, it's really changed how I watch anything.
It's funny, Shane, the one appointment television that I have for live TV is, we're recording this on the 31st of March. Tomorrow is the return of Stabler on Law & Order Special Victims Unit. I'll be watching that today. Like that's like the first appointment television. I'll be watching it, on the full, feed in quite some time, rather than watching it the next day on Hulu or CW or so on and so forth. So that's where I am.
Nope, I'm oblivious. I barely know that it's Wednesday right now.
I barely even know what year it is, apparently. So that's since we are talking Disney Plus, do we want to meander over to Falcon and Winter Soldier?
Let's meander.
Certainly.
Okay. Excellent. Have all 5 of us watched it?
Yes.
I have. Yes.
First 2 episodes.
Excellent. And spoiler warning now. To anybody who has not watched the first 2 episodes of Falcon and Winter Soldier, they will be spoiled. So hold your ears, folks, because Johnny Walker. Enough said.
Enough said.
I posted this to my Facebook, and I fully believe that missed opportunity by Marvel to not have a Johnny Walker red, white, and blue come out, as part of promotion for this, but that's beside the point.
Well, I kind of thought if they stuck with the original costume, maybe Johnny Walker black, So
that's true. That's true.
Yeah, so they even double goofed, on another.
Well, I mean, for all we know, that may very well be Johnny Walker Black come the end of the season. Starting off as Captain America and then rolling over to U.S. Agent as it were.
Let me start with a question for you, fine fellows.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think are we to infer that Steve Rogers has passed away? Because they don't specifically say he died; they just say he's gone.
I didn't get that.
I think that's open in the air for a reason. Open-ended.
I took it as being open-ended. Yeah.
The public is meant to assume that he's gone, but those in the know better.
Oh yeah,
right.
No one needs to know that Steve Rogers aged 70 years. Like,
right.
he's off in a retirement home in Missouri somewhere or something like that.
And not that I think it will happen, but that does leave it open if they need to bring him on in some capacity for something at some point.
Right.
Because in the comic, when he aged the one time in recent years, he was kind of supervising for a while.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I just take it as, like you said, nobody needs to know everything. He's gone. And that's
already been confirmed, though, hasn't it? I thought I remember reading an article like 2 months ago or something that it was confirmed that he would be coming back as was a Cap in some way, shape, or form. That doesn't mean, that he was going to be, tied and true, Cap that we've been used to in all the movies. He could be as, Steve, present time, 8 or whatever, or. It means many things, it's not, it's it's not, you know, one distinctive thing, but
It
he
was
will be back, obviously, according
Oh, yeah.
to what that article stated. It's just a matter of how and what fashion.
It was one of those confirmation, not confirmations, because
Yeah.
Right.
the article came out saying like, oh yeah, no, Chris Evans is coming back, and then Marvel was like, Chris Evans is not coming back. But then they were like, well, the sources are really good, and then Marvel said, shut up. So so it may wind up happening. But the same thing about, you know, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield
Right.
possibly being in
Right,
Spider-Man 3. Like
Yeah.
it's confirmed but not confirmed, and it won't be actually confirmed until you see it on TV.
Exactly.
Well, exactly. I don't take it until it actually is, you know, proof is in the pudding. But
Nope. Same.
you know,
here.
Well-
too, I think it's best you don't. You know what I mean? There's
Oh, yeah.
certain things-
Right. I don't need.
I
I
don't wanna
don't
know
mind.
everything up front. You know,
I don't
But-
mind trailers. I don't avoid everything, but I don't go seeking out every detail.
Oh yeah.
Best example for me would have been, you know, if I would have not known that Tom Holland Spider-Man would have showed up in Civil War, that would have been the most geeked out, you know, moment while watching a movie. I mean, that would have been totally caught everyone off guard. You know, if all of a sudden that scene would have happened and you had no idea he was going to be there. You know,
Oh,
what I
yeah.
mean? To me, that was kind of like a missed opportunity. You know,
Well, the same goes true, and this happens with toy releases all the time. For Civil War, I remember the one set had Giant Man in it. Well, I didn't know what it was. I just started to read an article that said, you know, Lego release spoils Civil War. I just avoided it. I didn't go down that aisle when I went to stores. I just avoided it because I didn't want to know what happened. And it was a great surprise.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they would benefit from that, because I mean, the geek word of mouth would be, you know, all over the place, you
Mhm.
know, and so they wouldn't lose. I don't think they would lose any, you know, promotion wise, you know, just regardless of. I don't think they would have. Basically, I don't see any difference in ticket sales if they would have done it either way.
Right.
You know, because as soon as the first viewing of that first show would have happened, it would have been freaking everywhere. You know, it would have been all over the internet. You know.
Yeah.
And then everybody would just flock to go see it just because of that, you know, or you know, and obviously the other reasons. But you know, so I don't see a detriment into keeping things more, you know,
Well,
off the radar.
look at how well that worked for J.K. Simmons in Far From Home.
Mm-hmm. That's
Right.
true.
That
Right.
that worked
Exactly.
spectacularly. No
Right.
pun intended. But
But
I wanted to note how much, first of all, how much I enjoyed the first 2 episodes of the show,
Yeah.
especially for 2 main reasons. One, the 2 leads have tremendous chemistry,
mhm.
and I love how they're exploring kind of how upended their lives are in the wake of, you know, Endgame, and you know, they're really getting in. Again, this is vintage Marvel, right? They get into the human side of it. Sam is struggling with his family and their finances, and just because he's the Falcon doesn't mean like when he goes to the bank they're going to give him a loan. And the Winter Soldier trying to atone, like kind of doing his own sort of like step program in a sense.
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
Really well done.
absolutely.
And the other thing I really loved was, as we all know, John Walker in the comic, when he first introduced, is a completely unsympathetic character, completely.
He's kind
Um,
of loathsome, yeah.
And what I like here is they've modified him in a sense that you can see that, you know, he's a career soldier. I mean, he won the Medal of Honor 3 times, and he's trying to, you know, do the best he can and fill impossible shoes.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested to see, because if they go by the book at all, he's not going to be able to fulfill the role. So I'm
Right.
Right.
interested to see how they're going to have him kind of falter, because he's more sympathetic than the John Walker of the comic, which I like. I like they kind of take him that direction, because
Right.
in a way you may want to start rooting for him, but you just, if you read the book, you're like, you know, this is not going to end well. So that I was really enjoyed, you know, the way they're approaching that.
I mean, I'm hoping that, you know, that it all plays out, that he's not just like becomes a villain and like, you know, it's kind of like, oh, that was his whole thing in the meantime, you know, since the beginning. I hope it does something that plays out character wise, that, you know, it's more his beliefs and things like that that start to, you know, put him in a different angle or a different way, you know, so that he kind of, you know, circumvents to what we'd known as, you know, readers over the time from the arcs with John Walker. I'm hoping that plays out that way, and it's showing that way so far, because, you know,
And it's a good point, Kevin, because the key difference in the books was that Steve Rogers is not ultimately a pawn of the U.S. government, and that was made very clear over the years character developed. And we have to see how, because Walker obviously at this point is an agent of the government, so we have to see how that's going to play. And also, of course, the other great plot line I'm sure going to follow is, Sam gave up the shield when Steve clearly wanted him to take up the mantle. So at what point are they going to go in a direction where he feels like, okay, I have to do this because this is what Steve expected of me. So this show, I think the show has great potential. Plus the way they're using the flag smasher concept.
I know that was such a great thing when I was like, oh, that's awesome. In
sync with the blip, I think is a great idea.
Yeah.
My two favorite things about the casting for John Walker is that they chose a legacy actor to play a legacy character. They got Wyatt Russell, Kurt Russell's son, to play the second Captain America, essentially, which is pretty cool. Now this means both father and son have been in Marvel Cinematic, for that matter.
Yeah.
So now we need to find a way for Kate Hudson and Goldie Hawn to somehow make their way in.
Oh, here we go.
And then we're all set. But
Kate Hudson can be Diamondback.
Oh yeah, there you go. Done and done. But I like the costume, and I simultaneously dislike the costume because he looks like he is a 14-year-old boy trying to fit into his father's suit. And I appreciate that because he doesn't actually fit the role of Captain America. He's trying his best, but he really doesn't actually fit
because no one can.
Exactly.
And I guess nostalgia wise for me, it's kind of, because reading the storyline when it was published, when it came out and such, I mean, I liked the black, white, and red. I thought that was a neat, approach to it. Obviously their approach to it now is they're trying to, make it the second Captain America. Whereas when the US Agent came out, in an essence, tone wise it was, but they weren't trying to replace Steve Rogers. It was just another character, another symbol, that the government could put out there. Obviously this is a little different, so I get it.
The other thing I wanted to point out is that they accidentally gave him Hamilton's logo as a helmet. They tried to do a star and an A, and it really just looks like the Hamilton logo, and it's all I can think of.
See Lin-Manuel Miranda going like this in the middle of it.
Exactly. He's not throwing away his shot to be Captain America, essentially.
Now, I really like how he, as this new Cap, is very concerned about not only his performance to be Cap and fill those shoes he can't fill. I can only imagine if they ever flash back him being approached, because he's a career officer, it's not like he had a choice. I'm sure they came and said, you are going to be this. You're the one we've selected after all these trials of all these soldiers. If he's truly a career soldier, it's not like he just said, nope, can't do it. He's going to do it and then realize how much he can't do it and then start going against what he's been ordered to do.
I think it's a great observation, Shane.
What I'm looking forward to seeing.
I also liked how they included the Battlestar character.
I know that was a surprise that I didn't expect.
Great touch. Yep.
Yeah, I thought that was something that I didn't anticipate at all. And all of a sudden there he is on screen. I was like, get out. That was cool. Good for them.
Yeah. It's a very Gruenwald heavy show so far.
Yes.
Yeah, so far I agree, which obviously is not a bad thing.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Yeah.
And I was very pleasantly surprised. Actually, watching the first episode, when I saw Batroc again, I was like, aha, here we go. And I knew Falcon and him were going to tangle. And I was like, this is going to tell me how they're going to set this all up. Because I thought if Sam would have went toe to toe with Batroc, you kind of would have lost me in a way, because he shouldn't be able to do that. He doesn't have the super soldier serum. He doesn't have the fighting capabilities that Steve does, and obviously Steve didn't, Steve had a decent battle with him, obviously he was able to best him, but I was like, this should not be an easy fight for Sam,
No.
And I'm glad that's how they put it out there. Cause I'm like, to me, that just set the tone for how, they're going to play this all out and be true to the characters,
Right. And I think a lot of the show, and I hope, will really be about Sam's struggle with what's his place now in this world as the Falcon, when there's this expectation that maybe he should be Captain America. And
Right.
I love how outraged Bucky was that he didn't take up
Oh,
the
yeah.
mantle
Yeah.
himself.
Yeah,
That was-
I loved that's one of the main dynamics I love about their relationship is that you always had that back and forth with them, but the fact that Bucky's pissed at him for giving up the shield, and I completely, I think that's totally in character, and I'm glad they're doing that, and they're playing that up. That really interests me to see how that's gonna play out.
And how great was the dual therapy session?
I know.
That was a riot.
It's just
They have great
there's
chemistry.
They have a lot to
Yeah.
play with, and they're doing it. They're capitalizing on it profoundly well.
I want to see a blooper reel of them doing that because there has to be time. Cracking
Oh,
up.
yeah, absolutely.
Murd, I'd love to get some of your thoughts on the series so far.
Well, my first thought is more than anything else, any other project, movie or series in the MCU so far, watching this feels to me like watching a Marvel comic book miniseries in television form.
Yep.
Well put, sir.
Something in the pacing and the way the characters are presented and the expertly timed release of the cool little surprises like Johnny Walker here, Isaiah Bradley there. It really feels like a classic 6-issue Marvel comic.
Yeah.
And that is
Agreed.
a very, very good thing.
Well put, brother.
Yeah, very good perspective. I like that.
Yeah, and for that matter, bringing up Isaiah Bradley, I did not see that coming.
No, I didn't either. When that happened, I gasped, and Ben was sitting aside of me. He said, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Oh my God, you have no idea what this is." I paused it and I explained it to him, and then we continued watching it.
I found myself having to do that to my parents often.
I did it with my wife. Yep.
Yes, assuming they were still awake by the time some plot development like that.
Was that a 3-hour discussion, Murd? Was that?
I did a pretty good job limiting my just timing myself.
I'm sure of that.
And I'm extra.
I guess there's a part of me that kind of I love the Brubaker run with Bucky, and especially knowing the fact behind the scenes, the fact that it was only supposed to be for a short period of time, but it became so well received that they obviously extended it and it didn't get stale. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I would like that to be, we pretty much all probably, speculate the fact that Sam will be the new Captain America. I'm presuming that, but I would like, if that's the end result, I would like for at least some of the time that, Bucky would, have the mantle a little bit.
I think that'll depend, Kevin, on the way, because the arc that had this character follow, he's so guilt-ridden with what he did when he was brainwashed, indoctrinated. He probably doesn't feel that he's worthy of picking up the shield, basically.
Which is exactly.
But I think
so.
But like you said, with the whole therapy and stuff like that, him condoning, atoning for his things.
Yeah,
I think it's something for him to strive for as a character. Yeah, which you get character build, and character progression, and that's something I look forward to. It's like, I think we all do as fans. You want to root for the underdog, and you want him to, get that golden ring.
Absolutely.
And, so you're kind of rooting for him. That's how I've been feeling so far. It's like because it's you're kind of you empathize for him. So I think that would be very cool, especially with the with the tension between the two of them because of the whole shield thing. I was like, that to me, that would just be kind of like a natural thing. Like the opportunity would arise. Bucky picks up the shield, goes like, fine, Sam, you didn't want it, I'll take it, and we get some Bucky Cap, and then, however, obviously, at the end of Endgame, you had that whole scene with Steve and Sam, but which kind of, I've watched it again, and I was just kind of like, I don't know if it's because of the influence of the comics or what. I was just like, it always felt natural to me that the next one would be Bucky, You know
what, Kevin? I had the same thought, but something reminded me in just the episode we just saw when Sam reminds Bucky that he and Cap were on the run for 2 years after Civil War, which we didn't see. I'd love to see some of those stories in flashback.
Oh yeah.
In those 2 years, they're living together. So of course they became very close, and Steve really got to know Sam's heart. So that probably
Right.
was a major factor why he made that decision.
Right, and obviously knowing with what's going on with Bucky, and the fact that him, dealing with his demons and being brainwashed and stuff,
Yeah.
I take that into consideration as well. But
and even in the very first episode when we're seeing Bucky deal with his demons, with the the old man that he's caring for because he killed his son.
I totally didn't catch that the first few minutes. Ben had said, "Well, you know who that is?" And I'm like, "What? No." And he's like, "But that's the dad." I'm like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
Then it hit.
Yeah.
That was soul crushing, and just think of how many instances of that. Now that he has his memory back, how many instances of PTSD he's dealing with the fact
all of these, all those ghosts, man. I mean, and that's it's a physical manifestation right in his face. He can't avoid it. It's like it's that blatant. And I can only imagine the guilt and the heaviness of that.
And two things about Bucky in particular around that time in the show. I love that he went on a date. I thought that was a great scene.
Playing Battleship. Yeah.
Playing Battleship, but that he couldn't continue on with it. And he went to the door of that gentleman to tell him, and he still couldn't bring himself to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
It was moving.
Oh,
it's very good. It's very good character play.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that we had an entire first episode where neither of the titular characters actually interacted, we had Falcon doing Falcon things, and we have Winter Soldier doing Winter Soldier things. We didn't get their interaction until the second.
I love the patience.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That really hit home. Now that Murd said that, that really hits home about it feeling like a miniseries. You never get everything you want in the first issue. You're introduced to everything.
Right.
Well, and it only speaks to the characters because obviously, they're kind of oil and water in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be hanging out all together. Now, obviously, there's reasons for them to be spending more time together, and you can see that they're starting to work together better and be more comfortable around you, and I think that's going to progress as well.
Sure.
So it just is all natural, very well thought out and very well paced out.
Also, Shane talking about things that I didn't know ahead of time. I was thrilled to see Rhodey in there.
Yes,
that was great.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, I had no idea he was going to show up, but then also that's essentially deepening the black roots of the show as well. Having two of the biggest black Avengers having a conversation together about legacy, both of them being legacy characters essentially.
Yeah, and both of them not getting along and being on opposite sides for Civil War.
Sure.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that just deepened that, and I was thrilled to see that interaction. It was really well done. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, with what they have planned in the future, with the talent being on the shows as well as the movies, I like the fact that there's no correlation. Like you can only have the big actors in the movie. I think that it's good to have cameos of these other characters pop up in the series. I think that just adds other levels to it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I can't wait for Sharon to show up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for that matter, Zemo.
Absolutely.
I know. Yeah, Zemo's just that's going to be awesome.
Even I know he's going to put it on, but even just the trailers, the tidbits where we see him holding the mask.
Oh yes,
gets you excited. Like,
and kudos for them for doing it. Because that is. I mean, obviously, it's kind of a hokey mask. You know what I mean? So it's like it it's easily could not convey well, in the cinematic thing, but they've done it, and it's going to work, and it's going to be a good geek moment,
And I'll tell you this: we're going to get further into it when you guys discuss, Snyder's Justice League a little bit. But one thing Marvel has done so well is embrace the hokiness.
I was just going to say that,
but they make it work though within the confines of what they're doing though. Like it works. It works.
Yeah,
like Vision and Scarlet Witch wearing their comic costumes in the Halloween parade, right?
That was awesome.
Perfect.
Yep, and then eventually, Scarlet Witch getting, her version of the costume, and all that. Like,
great.
It makes perfect sense. And now here we are, embracing further hokiness. I mean, the marching band, that was so great. It just works so well. Harkening back to Steve during the beginning of his first movie,
Yep.
where he's doing, the man with the plan, the Star Spangled Man with the plan and all that. Like, it's
the war bond rallies. Yep.
exactly. Yeah. So I love it so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing where we're going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. All right. We might as well transition over to DC. Don't
sound so ominous, Ian. Geez.
Well, yeah, no kidding.
I talked 3 hours on this already, gentlemen. So like, I'm going to give my initial thoughts, and then I'll hand it over to you guys for most of the conversation. I'll interject when needed. It's just for those of you who haven't listened to the Comic Geek Speak presents comic timing episode that is on the feed, I put out a solid almost 3 hours, so not 4 hours, but almost 3 hour episode about this movie. And I'll just summarize it in thoughts that it's overly long, didn't really change a lot. Even the stuff they changed still felt a lot like the original. There are parts that I enjoy. There's parts that I'm glad that they put back in. Then there's also parts that just felt like they were put in because Zack Snyder did not actually have a chance to edit this movie. And rather than edit it, he just decided to put in every scene that he shot. And it makes it drag, and it's 4 hours, and I needed a couple pee breaks. So
did you watch it in one sitting?
I watched it in one sitting.
Oh, so I watched it over a week.
Yeah.
Okay.
I watched it in one sitting because I felt like that was as close to a movie as I could get for it.
That is a devotion above and beyond the Call of Duty, man.
Oh, I know. And I rewatched the Ultimate Edition of Batman v Superman about 2 days before then. And I still have my problems with that movie, but it's the Ultimate Edition is better than the theatrical. I'll at least give it there.
Absolutely.
I agree.
This is better than the Whedon version, or as we called in the episode, Justice League. But it's,
I like it.
Thank you. But I think that I'm glad it's done and we can move forward. And I hope we do actually move forward. And whether we get more Justice League or we get solo movies, we're at least moving forward when it comes to DC rather than living in the past. So that's my general take on it. And you guys go from here.
So
Shane, go ahead, brother.
I didn't hate it, but I thought it was just as mediocre as the regular release. There were things that I missed from the first release. Like, I really enjoyed the beginning scene with Batman on the rooftop in the theatrical release, and I missed that from this one. I did enjoy Cyborg's expansive role in it. I did think it drug at parts, but I didn't mind that because for being a 4-hour movie broken up into 6 parts, I wanted those moments that allowed you to breathe during the whole thing. That's why I took 2 days to watch it instead of trying to sit it all in one. I did not like necessarily that, unlike the theatrical version, everybody was on board with everything happening this time around. Like, nobody argued about Superman. Everybody was just, okay, let's bring him back, and everyone's honky-dory. And I kind of liked that they were not all at ease with it in the first version.
Well, Aquaman was still ill at ease with it.
He was, but not at first. Like, that came through later, just before they did it. I did like that Flash wasn't quite as goofy in this one as he was in the first one, but he still had some comedic timing to it. I thought it was fine. I'm glad I saw it. I'm not unhappy that they did it, but like Ian said, I'm ready to move forward now and get out from under this.
Yeah.
I think it's worth watching once. I can't say that my problem with the DC movies, and I like them all to a certain extent, but I do not feel the desire, the need to watch them over and over like I do the Marvel movies. I think that Marvel does the storytelling much better in their movies than what DC has been doing in their movies. That doesn't mean I don't like them. I do, but like Justice League, both versions, they're kind of mediocre to me. They're not what I'm looking for in a Justice League movie. And to a certain extent, I don't know what that is because we've never seen it, but I know it's not what we're getting. That doesn't mean it's the worst thing on earth. It certainly isn't, but it's kind of mediocre to me.
May I piggyback on something you're saying? Shane?
Absolutely.
You're kind of, this is definitely what I'm thinking. So when I think about all the Zack Snyder films, the word that always comes to mind for me as a lover of the characters and the medium and everything is the word is frustration. Because when I watch all these movies, that you can see the good movies that are in there that for a variety of reasons don't fully come out. So for example, in watching this new version of Justice League, what struck me right away is like, wow, you know what? I really love the casting in this film. Like all the actors they got for these roles, I think are well suited to the characters they're playing, but they're terribly let down by the writing and just the general direction of where these stories are going. And in some cases where the director doesn't seem to fully understand or just has a different interpretation than I do of how some of these characters should be acting in these roles. And that's a great source of frustration for me as a lover of all this, because like I want to see more Ben Affleck as middle-aged, jaded, cynical Batman who now kills people. But I want to see that done with a different director and a different writer, for example. I was just thinking today about there's so much of Man of Steel that I still really love. Like that's my favorite of all the films Snyder has done. But there's other parts where I'm like, that's just not Superman. And I think for me, part of the issue I have with all these movies is it's one director's vision for all of it. And there's things that Zack Snyder does that I like, but there are things he does that I don't, that are just aren't my cup of tea. And his movies have, for me, a very one-note, washed-out quality, which doesn't, for me, work in certain ways with some of these characters. And I think if you want to, because Shane was making the comparison to Marvel, I think one of the things Marvel has done very effectively is they let different directors apply their vision, the different aspects of the universe, and all the directors, though, still respect and acknowledge the overall story framework that they're following, but they put in their own sensibility with each character in each movie that makes it more diverse, more interesting, and more rich. All of these movies are the same tone. And all the characters are very different characters, and they should have different tones. Like the tone of Flash or the tone of Batman, the tone of Superman, even when they're all together, should be completely different. You got that to some degree in these films. Like I almost forgot like how much I like Jason Momoa's Aquaman. I think he is awesome as Aquaman. Yeah. And they get like to the grittiness and like the cynicism and all that. But it's just a lot of it's just kind of washed out in this just general, for lack of a better word, dirge. And it's, for me, it's frustrating because I'm like, you know what? I like this actor. Like, I like all these actors. I like them all in these roles. I want to see them do these roles more, but could I see them in the hands of different directors and different writers? And without the Aquaman music video on top of that.
I was going to say, just to jump in here real quick. I think that's the major difference between Marvel and DC is that because Marvel had a chance to do all of these solo movies first, got the personalities of the characters first, and you got, different directorial visions, you got different ideas on the characters all set up to begin with, and then you had Avengers versus here where essentially, other than Wonder Woman, although Wonder Woman came after, it's all been Zack Snyder.
And I agree with Ian. The frustration is like I rewatched recently a lot of Man of Steel. I know we all have different views on that film, but it's the one Snyder film I still, for the most part, except the disaster porn at the end, I really like. And I remembered why, because near the end, he has this scene where Kevin Costner is just working in the yard and he's watching young Clark play with the dog, and he has a cape on, he stands with his arms akimbo. And the Hans Zimmer score in that movie, I think, is magnificent, actually. Mm-hmm. And you feel this is for you, Shane, the father-son emotion, and like he's envisioning what my son might offer to the world in the future. And then they have the music and he goes into the planet and he puts the glasses on. I'm like, wow. I'm like, I want to see the sequel to this movie. And they didn't make that sequel because they were in such a rush. They went right to, they didn't even do a Batman movie. They went right to the two of them meeting. And I'm like, no. Let it play out. Let's have more films building up these characters. I just think they just took it in the wrong direction.
Well, and I don't have a problem with them trying that if it would have worked well. It just didn't work well. I didn't want to see them just mimic what Marvel was doing by every single character has their own single movie and then they all come together. Mm-hmm. That would have been like, oh, look, they're just doing what Marvel does. So I don't dislike what they attempted to do. I just don't think they did it well. I don't mind that they went from a Superman movie to a team-up movie to a Justice League movie. I just think they should have done it a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Kevin?
I I definitely enjoyed this version of Justice League much better than the previous released one.
Yeah.
The previous released one, to me, whether I knew, that there was two directors helming the movie, it was completely obvious, to the point where from scene to scene, it was like almost a disjointed experience for me.
Yeah, it
Well,
was jarring.
let me remove my mustache real quick.
Yeah. So that ruined the experience for me. And it never felt, I don't know, it just never felt that it was a congruent storyline. It felt choppy. I thought the characters suffered. They didn't make me more interested in the characters. It made me less interested in the characters. And it wasn't a disaster, but it certainly was. It was a disaster. Fuck it. It was a disaster. And when I came to, I'm glad that they allowed, the Snyder cut to be released. I found myself actually becoming very enthused and excited prior to the release, which tells me a lot, for myself, because I was like, wow, this is like one of the few times I'm like excited, to see a DC movie, because of my experience with the previous movies. That being said, I did really enjoy this movie. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. It was too long. There's no question in my mind that this could have been 45 minutes or more less, and I wouldn't have felt like I lost anything. I think you could have conveyed all the points. You could have had all the storylines play out, and everything could have been easily accomplished without dragging it into 4 hours. I'm glad that they released it as one movie. When I heard that they were doing that, and then they actually decided we'll release it in 4 parts, and then decided, no, we'll release it I'm glad they did that. My intention was to watch it all at one sitting, but I broke it in 2 just because of my schedule. Otherwise I would have sat down and watched it at one shot. That was my intention.
I think I'm sorry, Kevin, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, go ahead.
No, I think
I'm
I
not done
actually
yet, so go ahead.
No, you're not done. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying it's not going to ruin, it's not going to interrupt me. This is the natural part of the flow, it's
Indeed.
part of the discussion.
I think in contrast, because I watched it over several days, I think in some ways I enjoyed elements of it more because I was able to contrast the different parts in my experience. Like part 5, I loved.
Yeah.
When they're gathered around the table and then the image of Superman comes up, I actually got that mythic chill that DC often provides, and like, oh, we have
absolutely
to Superman. Like that was like that whole sequence I thought was really well done, and when they're trying to bring him back and the Flash is running, and that's my favorite part of the entire film, was that fifth part, of which I thought was in many ways maybe the most flawless part of the entire presentation. So.
Which I agree. I had the exact same experience, and also because of my my love for Superman, that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to see this art, because I wanted to see how Zack Snyder's arc for Superman, because ultimately what we've seen with Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, and Justice League, it was his arc for Superman. Like, this was his 3-part arc. And I wanted to see how it can, and I'm glad I did, because this iteration was much more deserving and much more enjoyable of how he set up Superman, and that scene particularly. And I like the fact that they used the mother box and that stuff. To me, the other part was like hokey. It was like it just came across that way. With this, it was a much more natural integration and purpose. And I like that. It really, to me, it added to it. And I'm with you. The Man of Steel, I really enjoy that movie. And the more I watch it, the more I kind of enjoy it. Obviously, it's not perfect. Obviously, there's things but I still really enjoy that movie. There's some really good stuff to that. And again, being a Superman fan, I remember going into that reading all the articles with David Goyer and Christopher Nolan and their intention for it. I was like, oh my God, finally I'm going to get a good Superman movie again, you know? And I was like, you know, and then it came out and, you know, it wasn't quite there, but I still hold that movie quite in, you know, there's an endearment to it for me.
And me too. And one of the frustrations for me is I think Henry Cavill is really good in the role.
Absolutely. And anybody who has picked
yeah.
up the roles since Christopher Reeve, I would totally love to see Henry Cavill get.
Yeah, which is probably not going to happen.
It's probably not going to happen. And
if
I was
only he
hoping
was
for
allowed
that
to be
for
Superman.
Man of Steel 2. You know, I was hoping that we got the sequel. You know, I was like, God damn it, give Superman a chance. You know, I'm tired of 13 iterations of Batman. You know, so give me a damn good Superman movie again. And I was like, you know, let it breathe, let it happen.
Yeah,
you know,
and
then they did Batman vs Superman, which again is not a horrible film, but you know, I just would have preferred to have a good Superman sequel. I think they had a lot of opportunity to build off of. I think, you know, with every, you know, a lot of people having a lot of issue with how the movie ended. I thought, you know, if you start the next movie and address that and build off of that, it can turn that negative for most people into a positive. I thought you had so much opportunity and it was lost. And
also in the second film, the Batman versus Superman, part of my frustration with the way they're presenting Superman is I don't think they gave the Clark Kent character enough time to really develop and breathe at all, which is so important. Yeah. And, you know, there was a moment in the Justice League, the 4-hour film, where he's returned to the family farm and the butterfly comes down on his hand and he's kind of admiring, like, and I'm like, see, that's Superman, like that mythic connection to the earth. There just was not enough of that in the arc they created for that character. And that it was such a nice, beautiful, quiet moment. And I just, I was like, oh, I wish there was more of that.
It does. It gives you that taste. Like, this is what we could have had, you know, you know, this is what you could have elaborated on, you know, built on and, you know, so yes, I agree. It's like a bittersweet moment. Like you enjoy it and then you go like, you know, we could have had this, you know, we could have had much more than this.
If only.
What did you think? I'm sorry.
And then
I was just gonna add though is that if only we'd gotten no Lex Luthor worth a damn, but that's beside the point.
Well, that's a whole nother story. We don't have time for that. So but I mean, you know, one thing that stood out to me, I didn't, you know, and it was kind of weird how synonymous it was in Batman versus Superman, like, you know, with the whole contention of him killing Zod, and, you know, with people having such a big issue with that. And I'm thinking you go into Batman v Superman and I'm like, okay, you know, with all that, you kind of like respond to that in a way. And in the first opening scene, you know, he saves Lois at that thing but there's no way you telling me he didn't splatter that guy into a million pieces by you know, being super speed through how many walls, you know what I mean? You can't tell me he didn't kill that guy, you know? So I'm like, you completely just, you know, stomped on yourself. And then to see it basically emulated with Wonder Woman just kind of blew me away. I was like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, if you had the scene in Wonder Woman and then with Justice League, you see her go in there and in 15 seconds wipe out all those terrorists. Explain to me why she would have to use the God power to take out a human being. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That just makes no sense to me. To me, you completely undermine any credibility. It just shows me that you're just kind of going for flash more than sustenance. And that bothers me. I mean, it really does. Yeah. So that's an issue I have with it. Cyborg and Flash, I'm sorry. You even though you've elaborated on everything, I could still give two shits about either character. They were flat to me. I have no interest in them, and I'm a Flash fan. You know, I loved Flash comics. I read them, all of them, and I have no interest in this Flash whatsoever. It you know, and Cyborg, God bless him, but I mean, if it wasn't for the whole mother box thing, I mean, you could have just completely eliminated him, and I wouldn't have missed a damn thing.
The one Flash scene that was really, really good was "If I Could Turn Back Time." You know,
I agree with you, but also in the same extent, his scenes became painful to me. They were like so drawn out. I was like, all right, enough already. You know, like, okay, I get it. He sees in super slow motion and he can perceive. I'm like, but it was like so drawn out. I was like, was this intentional because of the Quicksilver scenes and X-Men? You know, that they did this and they thought they had to do it a little differently. So they drew it out longer, you know, to make him a little faster. And I'm like, you make it less interesting to me, you know, and I literally was like, oh, another scene. Here we go. You know, it's like it just ruined my experience to an extent. Not extensively, but enough to make me notice and enough to take me out of the moment.
Nothing
and
against
I honestly, I'm sorry, Chris, but I the Aquaman thing, I applaud them for giving Momoa an opportunity and taking Aquaman in a different direction. I like the whole Samoan background and such, rather than being blonde-haired, blue-eyed, Caucasian. I applaud them for doing that, but I was hoping that something more would come out of this character as well in this Justice League, but I felt no different going into this movie than I did after I watched it. And
all right,
I will also add to that I didn't enjoy the Aquaman solo movie. I remember my daughter and I went to the theater together, as we did with most of the superhero movies throughout all these years. And I remember we were standing at the theater and it was like, all right, Jess, do we go see Aquaman or do we go see Spider-Verse? And I was like, well, I remember having a discussion. And I said to her, well, Aquaman's getting all this positive, so I'm kind of intrigued to see what this is. And both of us walked out of the theater and just looked at each other and go like, yeah, we should have picked Spider-Verse.
No, you definitely should have gone into Spider-Verse. Yes.
And then when I did watch Spider-Verse, I walked out going like, yeah, I should have really watched Spider-Verse, and it just, again, I was like, wow, I was very surprised because of the amount of fanfare it was receiving while Aquaman was showing. And then when I actually watched it, I was like, wow, this was disappointing, and I was hoping again that this might have added something to that character to make it more interesting for me. But he seems two-dimensional to me, and that's how it comes across.
I think, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's just kind of like that Wolverine-ish, kind of.
I think there's potential there with the proper
I don't argue with you. I agree with you in your statements in regards to let other director. I mean, obviously James Hahn directed the movie, so I really didn't get an overall overwhelming oh, this is awesome. But I was hoping that maybe again this would have been elaborated on and maybe add some more dimension to that character so that I could enjoy it more. But I didn't get that. But
go ahead, Ian.
I was just going to say the only other thing that I was going to add on this is that because this is an unedited Snyder cut, because this is everything that was made 3 years ago, there's also, you have to take it out of continuity with everything that's happened since, because you literally have to, because there's continuity flaws in the Aquaman stuff.
Right.
Not just Mira's hair color and her accent, which are completely different, but also, Volko looks completely different. The whole air bubble thing is not something.
Hey, it's the multiverse.
Oh no, and please, if we can put this on, Earth Z or whatever for Zack Snyder, that's well and good. But they even set up, because he refused to use any of Whedon's scenes. I don't know whether or not this was a Whedon scene or whether this was just an alternate take or what have you. But they also did a different reveal about Deathstroke at the end of the movie.
Yeah, I didn't like that. Yeah. I was much more interested in Justice League than Deathstroke finding out who Batman was.
Right, exactly. Which was clearly there to set up the Batman solo movie, which is not happening. So,
and when I think back to the Whedon cut, the two scenes from that, I'm trying to remember that I really enjoyed. Ian, you're making the joke about when they digitized out his mustache.
Yeah.
But I think that was a really important scene because I think it got to the essence of Superman in that the kids are asking him how he feels about, I think, what he's doing on Earth, and he almost starts to smile. I was like, oh wait, that's a great Superman scene right there. Yeah. And I just want to see more of that type of thing. Or they did the Flash Superman race at the end of that movie, which was a really fun. You know, there's that. But the other thing I wanted to point out was, and this is just me, but Steppenwolf and Darkseid and Desaad look so fake.
I agree.
That it takes me out of those. Like, I love the voice they got for Darkseid, right?
Yeah, right.
But I love when it contemptuously crushes Steppenwolf's head. But it takes me out of those scenes because they look so computer generated. You guys know what I'm talking about there? Like,
well, like when I'm watching Steppenwolf in the Snyder cut, to me, all I saw was a cross between Thanos and the Sentinels from Days of Future Past.
Yeah,
and that's what I kept seeing, you know. And I was just like, it takes me out of the scene in a way, you know. Like, they could have done something more unique, I thought, with Steppenwolf and made him more visually appealing. And I didn't
like the design of Steppenwolf in the first release, let alone this one, which made it worse.
Right.
Right. I was just amazed for all that part of me was so excited to see what all these apocalyptic characters would look like and be like now, and to see them the way they turned out. I liked the voices they got for them, but they just did not look right at all. They looked horrible to me.
I mean, I didn't mind Darkseid as much as I minded Steppenwolf.
No, I minded him least. You know, if that's the way to do it. Yeah, exactly. I didn't mind him the least. He was okay, but compared to the other ones, no.
Martian Manhunter was a mistake.
Yeah. That felt very forced.
It did. They added it in post. We know that, but still not as big a mistake as those frickin' epilogues, where I mean, apparently there's tattoo removal in the future, so we'll give them that, you know, because Leto's Joker, you know, clearly is no longer damaged.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was so obvious that it was filmed in two different locations, because not once is there an actual scene where the two of them are looking at each other, which I get, you know, it was filmed during COVID times. We get that, but it was just useless. And I hated the scene.
Yeah. I didn't like the scene at all either. And I could care less about Leto's Joker. I mean, I don't think he did anything for the role. There's nothing interesting about his version of the Joker. And when I heard they weren't doing anything else and he was getting all pissy about it, I was like, good. You know, I think that's a good decision. I don't think that's a bad decision. This epilogue scene proved it, as far as I'm concerned.
And I think that epilogue would have had value if we knew something was coming.
Exactly.
And if it does come now, that's fine. But I don't know. It just doesn't sit well with me.
No. I doubt it. DC's trying to move on. Warner Brothers is trying to move on.
Yeah.
And Frank,
and I think that's the right move.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's the right move as well. I agree. Because honestly, as much as Watchmen is one of my favorite superhero movies, this was like, overall, that's what I got to feel like. This is the DC Watchmen. You know, Zack Snyder's DC Watchmen. You know, I got that same feeling while watching these characters. Like, here's Watchmen, but it's Superman, you know, instead of Dr. Manhattan, and it's, you know, Batman instead of Night Owl. You know, I got that same kind of vibe, you know, and I didn't want that, you know. So, but overall, you know, I did applaud him for what he attempted with Superman, and I think he accomplished most of it. And that was my takeaway from it. That was like my satisfaction, my greatest satisfactory moment.
As the big Batman fan, do you agree that you'd like to see Affleck and Jeremy Irons, who's wonderful as Alfred, by the way?
Oh my God! Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen a solo movie with the two of them.
Absolutely.
Now, I don't think Batman would ever get to a point where he's just killing people.
Yes,
but I do think he can be much more serious and jaded and skeptical about certain things. I really do like how Ben Affleck portrayed him, and I love Jeremy Irons as Alfred.
Oh, great!
And for how serious the movie is, one of my favorite scenes was Alfred chastising Wonder Woman over the way she was making her tea.
Yeah.
Those are the moments that matter. Yep.
That's exactly right.
There's other Jeremy Irons things from the first release that I enjoyed that weren't in this one. Yeah. I really enjoyed his portrayal as Alfred. I thought that was really something.
Yeah,
I agree.
And I even like J. Jonah Gordon. You know, it's.
Oh yeah. Oh, he looked great. He acted great. Yeah.
Yep.
You're getting these glimpses of the movies that might have been, and it's just, like I said, it's just frustrating.
Yeah.
And part of it, so I always thought of DC and Marvel very separately. Like Marvel was set in the real world for the most part, in New York, in places that exist. It was heavier because of the fault of all the heroes, which is perfectly fine. DC has heroes that are faulted too, but DC was more fantastical. It was a little bit brighter to me than Marvel.
Right.
And yet here we have two different movie universes where Marvel is not only not afraid to put costumes on their characters that work in a real world setting. It's a brighter universe than what DC is. DC movies, especially if I'm watching them on TV, I have to turn the brightness up a little bit because they're so dark.
Because it's all the same director again.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Just
Bird.
wait for the Suicide Squad, Shane.
Oh,
Well, and that I'll tell you what, that trailer gives me some hope because that looks much different than anything we've seen before.
It looks like Guardians of the Galaxy meets Suicide Squad,
and it should to a certain extent.
Yes, it should.
I need something to wash that Birds of Prey taste out of my mouth. So
I watched that the other week.
The other
Lord.
Oh God.
Oh my God.
The other thing I'll mention, Shane, you mentioned the two separate universes, and yet it was a team of superheroes getting together to face a villain who's gathering together objects to bring forth the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the movie Versus, Marvel was the first one in Doctor Strange to say about a multiverse. I'm like, wait a minute, Marvel never had a multiverse. It was always no, there's no multiverse until recently.
That was Quesada's hang up. Marvel has actually had a multiverse of sorts for a very long time.
And that's what I always took it as too. But for DC movies to not bring that first, I don't know, it just rubbed me the wrong way a little bit.
Now,
is there going to be just that?
Is there going to be a Flash film?
Yes,
there's supposed to be.
It's
I hope not.
They actually just recast his dad because the guy that they had, the one who played Dr. Manhattan in Crudup, had to drop out, so they got the guy from Office Space to play his dad now. Which is still not that bad casting wise, but apparently Batfleck is going to be in it. Possibly for the last time, and because it's supposed to be multiversal, we are also getting the return of Keaton Batman.
Which is now supposed to be the DC Universe Batman.
Yes.
Wait, in the Flash film or in another movie?
In the Flash film.
Wow.
Because it's crossing multiverses in the Flash film.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to set up Batman Beyond.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Which obviously is my end game. To see Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne and have a Batman Beyond movie.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Sign me the hell up.
We've all been wanting this for at least the last 10 years.
Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God.
I really thought that at the end of the Batman Begins trilogy, I really thought when what's his name found the Batcave, they were going to show a bat suit with the red symbol across it as the next step to go.
Right.
That's what I thought at the end. At the end, when G. Gordon Levitt, I was like, instead of him being what they set him up to be, I was like, they're going to set him up as Batman Beyond, and they didn't. I was like, what a freaking missed opportunity. But then again, maybe it might be more fortuitous because now obviously they won't be shackled or compared to that or something.
Sure.
But upcoming movies in this universe include Aquaman 2, Black Adam, which is being cast right now. Pierce Brosnan was just cast as Dr. Fate.
Which I'm kind of interested in.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm interested in that. Very much so. I like the Justice Society, so I'm glad to see that they're stepping into. I mean, I applaud DC because that's been my biggest argument and complaint for a long time. Is like, you have all these other characters.
Yeah.
Please use them.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking forward to Batmanson. I think that Pattinson's going to do a really good job.
He's a good actor.
Yeah, it's just that's the side universe, and that'll be Earth Q or whatever. I don't know, whatever.
So the other films you listed are still in this universe they've established already.
Correct. Yes. Black Adam, The Suicide Squad, Aquaman 2, whenever Wonder Woman 3 happens,
And
all
Flash.
that, and Flash and Shazam 2, when that winds up coming out, will all be within the same, movie universe. And pretty much anything else is over to the side. The Joker, Batman. If they make another Superman, it'll probably be in another universe, because I doubt it'll be Cavill. So that's
I read
because
I read the thinking of Michael B. Jordan.
That's kind of what they're going for, because obviously, with J.J. Abrams, and they took on he was writing Captain America.
I know.
Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Yes.
Thank you. Then I'm like, well, that's just pretty much, no offense. I mean, I just pretty much nails it for me that they're going to go in a different direction.
Oh yeah.
With Superman, which obviously disappoints me completely. I think it's a cowardly move on DC's part. I understand why they're doing it, but I was like, God damn it, give me a damn good Superman movie for a change, will you?
He's also too busy being The Witcher right now, Henry Cavill. So
I kind of think that I think that plays into it. Plus, I've also, from what I've read, that he's pretty much burned his relationship with DC because with what happened in Shazam. That was like the straw that broke the camel's back, from what I understand.
What happened with Shazam?
That he was originally a cameo.
When he was filming Batman v Superman, from what I understand, that Affleck was getting all this, extra attention, extra things, and Cavill felt left out. So he started demanding a lot of stuff. It sort of come across as a prima donna kind of thing. So then when the whole Shazam thing took place, that all led up to that. So then he actually was holding out and kind of using that as a trump card against Warner Brothers. And Warner Brothers was like, screw you. So we just won't show your face, so you lose, and I think they really, from what I understand, that really pissed off the execs, that Cavill made that move.
Yep.
And so he's pretty much, their relationship is almost non-existent. So I do not expect to see Cavill back in the Superman suit in the future. So, which is more the reason why I think they're going in that other direction.
Sure. Yeah. All right, we might as well give this our freckin' squeers and move on to other bits of conversation here.
Sure.
Kevin, how many do you give it out of 5?
I'll say 3.5.
All right, Shane.
The same. I'm keeping with my C grade mediocre-ish.
2.5 for me. 2.5.
2.5 for me as well.
Yep. All right, fair enough. And now, Air Harp.
Oh, that's majestic. Oh.
Yes, indeed. It is time once again here on Comic Geek Speak for Muddle the Murd, and the Murd has more.
Yep, it's time for comics trivia the way you like it. All right, folks, if you would like to play along with our trivia segment, Muddle the Murd, you will need to come up with 3 comic book trivia questions and email them in so that I, the Murd, may attempt to answer them. You're going to need 1 Marvel question, 1 DC question, 1 question about some other publisher. They also need to break down chronologically to 1 about comics pre-1970, 1 about comics between 1970 and 2000, inclusive, and 1 about comics published post-2000. Come up with 3 questions that meet those criteria. Please make sure they're not too picayune or we need something that relates specifically to the story. I mean, it's nothing about the background details in some panel or other. No throwaway detail. It needs to be a question of substance. And please make sure it's about the story as opposed to like the back matter, the bullpen bulletins page, the letter column, etc. Email them into comicgeekspeak@gmail.com with Muddle the Murd in the subject line. Don't forget to include the answers to the questions, because otherwise we won't know whether you've been successful in your muddle attempt or not. And then Ian, our quizmaster, will ask them to me, and I will attempt to answer them. And if I get all 3 of them wrong, you will have won a prize. And we have got 1 more of our drawer boxes prize packs to give away. It will consist of 5 drawer boxes from our friends at the Collection Drawer Company, your choice of long box or short box size, and they'll throw in some upright box sort dividers and some box locks stabilizing anchors for good measure.
Excellent. And we're not quite at the end of our queue, but do send in those muddles as we're getting close to the bottom of our stack. So make sure to do that. Whether or not this is the winning bid for the drawer box, we have plenty of other prizes to give away, and we love doing trivia here on the show. So do send in your Muddle the Murd submissions. We love them. And this one is by Timo Pekonen. And he says, first, Earhart. So, there we go. All right. Question 1. DC pre-1970. In Detective Comics number 38, published April 1940, after Batman and Robin take an undying oath to fight together against crime and corruption, training begins. Batman trains Robin 2 distinct fighting styles. The first is boxing. The second is what?
All right. This is Detective Comics number 38. Best I can think of is judo.
Ooh. Close, but no cigar.
Can I try?
Go ahead.
All right, so it's 1940, so they're not martial arts was not in the zeitgeist yet.
Mhm.
I'm going to say wrestling.
Nope. Murd was
Oh.
closer. Murd was closer. Anybody else?
The only thing I would think is karate. Just flat out saying karate.
The correct answer, jujitsu.
Ah,
Wow, I stand
Cockfighting.
corrected.
Oh.
Wow,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
impressive.
Very,
It's not
very.
cockfighting.
Yep.
But the proverbial cigar eludes me. So
Indeed.
strike one.
Now, if Mert would have said martial arts, would that been an acceptable answer?
Would have been too broad.
I think he would have prompted me there.
Who
Oh,
you
yeah.
calling a solid?
Meanwhile, question 2, independent 1970 to 2000. In Tale 1 of Dragon Ball, Bloomers and the Monkey King, monkey-tailed young Goku refers to the 4-star Dragon Ball as his late grandpa. Genius inventor Bulma calls this specific Dragon Ball Shushinchu. Bulma is on the hunt for all 7 Dragon Balls. The first one she found was the 2-star ball, Arushinku, and after weeks searching the North Valley, she found Ushinku. How many stars are in Ushinku?
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so we're not asking how many stars are on Goku's grandpa ball.
No, we are not. We are asking how many stars are on Ushinku.
Okay. Now we've established that actually we haven't established, but Goku's ball is the 4-star ball.
Yes, that's
That
correct.
much I know. And does he say that the first one that Bulma found was the 1-star ball?
The 2-star ball.
Okay, so it's not 2 and it's not 4, so I've got a 1 in 5 chance here. Yeah, 'cause I know my Dragon Ball pretty well. That's actually my nightstand reading these days.
really?
Yep. I'm up to the 3rd of those 3-in-1 thick phone book things
The
that
legendary
Oh, wow.
nightstand.
I've been putting out
Yeah.
lately.
Nice.
Yeah, I've gotten up to the 2nd Tenkaichi Budokai when Tien and Chaozu and their obnoxious master, the Crane Hermit, show up to compete against Goku and friends.
Oh, cool.
None of which answers the question, of course. So it's not 2 and it's not 4. It's either 1 or it's 3, 5, 6. Oh boy, I'm just gonna have to pull an answer out of the air here. 5.
On the next episode of Dragon Ball Z, Adam Murdo guesses the right answer.
Boink, man.
Out of thin air, man, on your flying Nimbus, you come in and you grab that answer. Well done, sir. Well done.
Just stuck my power pole right in there.
Majestic.
Sorry, Tino, the odds were not in your favor.
Game so close. But let's see how you do in the final question here. Marvel post 2000. Forging the Sword is the story arc title of the first 4 issues of Claremont's Excalibur from 2004. At the beginning of issue 1, Genosha is under quarantine, and Professor X painfully observes the desolate state of the island, a result of Cassandra Nova's Mega Sentinels from Grant Morrison's run. What is the subtitle of this first issue, or part 1 of Forging the Sword? Hint, it shares a title of a 1966 Rolling Stones song.
Oh, my goodness. Well, yeah, this one, I'm glad that I'm safe already because, I read this. I read the first 4 issues of this Claremont Excalibur series just this past summer. And so I really ought to, it should have stayed with me a little longer than this. But okay, a Rolling Stone song. I do know a few of those. How about Paint It Black?
And you are 2 for 3.
All right.
Nice.
Wow.
Well done, Murd.
Nice.
Well done.
Nice.
Well done indeed. He said that was fun. Hope it makes the cut. Timo Pakonin and Timo, excellent questions.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah, excellent.
Nice job, Mr. Murd.
Yep. Well done. Pulling it out of
Very good.
Hats off to Mr. Pakonin as well, because as you said, those were some good questions.
Yes, they were. Yep. Excellent. All right, let's transition over from Dragon Ball Z to the Dragon Ball Z of superheroes, shall we? As I got to watch the first 3 episodes of something I have been waiting for a very, very long time.
There he is.
Yep, the animated series of one of my favorite superhero series, period. Robert Kirkman's Invincible. Yes. And I gotta tell you, from these first 3 episodes, fellas, they got it right.
Oh, wow.
No kidding.
All right.
They got it right. So right.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah. I was like, wow. I'm watching all 3 episodes, at each episode going, wow. Wow. All right. Wow.
Anybody who knows anything about the series knows that there's a huge reveal after issue 8.
Right.
And it's an over 100 issue series. So they could have went 2 routes with this. They could have held that reveal until, say, like episode 5, episode 6, or whatever. Instead, right away.
Episode 2, right? Episode 2?
I think it might have even been. I think it was. It was either. It might have been episode 2. I'm pretty sure it was episode 2. It might have even been episode 1, to be entirely honest. At the end of it, but either way, the big change. I will not spoil it for anybody who hasn't read Invincible nor seen the show. But I will say that the big change in the series happens right away, and it adds new stakes to the series, because even though sure it happened nice and early, you're immediately led to, this is not the story that they were painting it to be. This is not, Superman's son taking over the legacy. This is something a lot more deep than that. But they also
good, because I don't want a complete regurgitation. In a way. I mean, I want the tone and I want them to capture the essence of the characters.
Yeah.
But again, I don't want the exact storyline, So I'm glad that they have mixed it up and are, and they're playing around with it a little bit, but it's just as good as the comic,
Ian, how many episodes is the first season?
I believe it's going to be 8, but don't quote me on that. Where I know that they're going weekly after the 3 episode release. So episode 4 airs at the end of this week.
Okay.
Yeah, but also the voice cast they got for this is just outstanding.
Voice casting is amazing. I couldn't believe the names, and just kept popping up, and also the animation.
Oh, it's so good.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, they get Otley's style down perfectly.
I mean, quality all the way around on this thing.
Yep. What were you going to say, Chris?
No, just I want to revisit the fact that I pledged to you that I was going to read Invincible this summer, because you've been raving about it for years, and I always trust your judgment. So I'm looking forward to then watching the show after I read the series. And what you fellas are saying only makes me that much more excited to both read the book and then see the series.
Well, one
kind of like, I mean, it's kind of a similar experience of watching The Walking Dead, because when you read The Walking Dead and watch a TV show, it's basically the same approach. It's like, you have the characters, you have the premise and all that, but it's not the exact same thing. Yep. So it makes it interesting for those that have read it, and obviously it's interesting for those who haven't. So,
well, one thing they do in the series, that it's not a spoiler to say this, is that it was always kind of hinted in the artwork that Mark was half Asian, and they decided to just go ahead and do that in the series.
Right.
That his mother was always drawn to look somewhat Asian, but they never quite said it, and they cast Sandra Oh as his mother. Stephen Wen is playing Mark Grayson in this, so they just straight out embraced his Asian side of him, and the other side of him being Viltrumite Freddie Mercury, and they went whole hog on that. And J.K. Simmons plays his father, Nolan. Omni-Man does a great job. Gray DeLisle, now known as Gray Griffin, longtime voice actress playing Monster Girl in this. Kevin Michael Richardson. Seth Rogen as Alan the beautifully cast. I mean, I know he's an executive producer on this, but still, like he's the perfect Alan. And just I am so hyped for this series.
And who's Adam Eve? Who's the actress?
Gillian Jacobs from
yes.
Yep. Yeah, and a whole bunch of other, Marshall Ali shows up in this. Zachary Quinto is playing Robot.
Wow, what a cast!
It is. It's name after name after name. I mean, it's awesome.
Oh, and Clancy Brown shows up as well. And
yes,
bringing it back to our Highlander episode. So,
by the way, a listener, forgive me, I don't remember who, had posted on the forums that Michael Rosenbaum's podcast, he interviewed Clancy Brown. I listened to that episode. It was a great interview.
Yeah.
And
I did too.
He goes through his whole career, and he's so soft-spoken.
Yeah.
In comparison to the characters he plays in film and television. But if you're interested in him talking about his career, it's a really good interview.
I definitely need to check it out. Yeah, no, I'm because I love pretty much everything he's ever been in. So
plus they know each other from playing the Flash and Lex Luthor, so they talk about Justice League cartoons. It's a good interview. It's really good.
I have no idea who this is. one of my favorite moments in Justice League, the animated series. When Lex Luthor and Flash, switch bodies, and it's like, now I'll find out who's under here. I have no idea who this is. But yeah, it's so good, and I'd say those who have read the series would get a greater appreciation. But honestly, if you don't feel like reading the series, I think you'll definitely still get an appreciation out of the animated series. It's really, really good.
I agree. My biggest complaint is, Buzz brought it up on a Facebook post, and I totally agree with him. Is that it was poorly promoted?
Yes,
because I knew it was happening, but it completely fell off my radar. And then last Friday, I went on Facebook and Buzz had posted Invincible. Wow, just wow. And I was like, oh, holy shit, it's out. I heard nothing or saw anything about it at all.
They stealth released it a day early too.
I was just like, wow, why would you do that? Why?
Yeah. Well, I hope that enough people watch it and that it gains steam, and that you were able to do the entire series here, because it's so good.
With the quality of it, I'm hoping that it gets enough positive reinforcement through the fans, and the word spreads and people do watch it, because it is deserving, and I'm hoping that it continues as so and gets another season, especially.
Oh, and I'll also point out Mark Hamill plays the superhero Taylor on the show, and that's again all you need right there. So good.
I was floored to just seeing all the known actors and actresses that have been cast for the voices for them. It's amazing.
Yep.
I'm interested in the voice cast, but I've never read the book at all.
Oh man,
we did the Book of the Month Club back in 2011. I don't think I was on that episode, but yeah.
Shane, why don't you join me this summer? We can read.
Yeah, I might have to. Yeah.
I'll join you guys too. I never read past Volume 1 either, but I've had Volume 2 sitting around my apartment for like 4 months now.
Well, I'd love to have you guys
read it.
That
you and I
exactly. Yes, Kevin. I'm glad that you and I have read it, and that we can appreciate it and enjoy it for what it is. And I cannot wait for you gentlemen to read it as well.
Well, and there's something to say about it too, because I had it with other experiences with other titles and such. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say after, if you watch the animated series and then read the comics.
And I may do that because I'm really curious about the voice cast.
Well, I'll tell you this. The reason that I called it the Dragon Ball Z as superhero, comics is that it is. I mean, you can call Dragon Ball Z a superhero comic as well. Frankly, it's just happens to be Japanese. But this is gory and violent and all of that stuff. Like, they do not pull their punches.
Yeah, this is not a
Good.
kids show, and to an extent, but don't. I mean, I don't want to tout it that it's gratuitous. I
No,
mean, or
because it's not.
over glorified. It's what happens and what you
It
see
serves the story. It sounds like.
deserves a story. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly. One of my favorite early bits in the show is an invading force that tries to take over the Earth, and they don't realize that time works differently in their reality. So the minute that they start invading, they all start shriveling up and dying because they're aging super fast.
But it's a comical, but yet it's an important part of the storyline is that they keep trying. it's like they keep doing this story, and all of a sudden, here come the aliens again. They figured something out to try to circumvent what happened before, and it's like it's just like this. It's almost like a recurring joke. It's just like it just keeps happening.
I'm also super glad that the Pentagon parking in the rear sign does indeed actually show up, because that is my favorite character in Invincible. That's not Invincible, is just that sign, because they keep showing it every time they show the Pentagon, no matter what happens to it in every issue. That's like the running staple, is that there's always Pentagon parking in rear. Like, okay, good, give me that, I'm happy.
Yeah, it's very entertaining. Very entertaining on all levels. Highly recommend.
May I make my field report on the Stan Lee biography?
You may, Chris, because I've been waiting for this.
Unless you wanted to bring up something else first. I don't want to step.
No. Please go right ahead.
So just to give some background to listeners, here, I'll put it on the screen. So this came out recently, True Believer, The Rise and Fall of Stan Lee by Abraham Reisman. So there was a really engaging thread on the Facebook page of listeners discussing and debating the merits of this book. And as many people know, I'm a diehard lover and student of comic book history and Marvel history in general. So I said, all right, I'll read and see what I think. Because some people were saying it's a smear job, others saw it as a more compelling, like, critical piece. So I read it over the past week. Man, let me wipe like the metaphorical kind of slime off myself. First. So, all right, let me say this first. Stan Lee is a very important figure, obviously, in 20th century popular culture. And I think there is definitely a need for a critical, extensive biography of his life and his impact on the comic book medium. And to be fair, I have not read the Roy Thomas one he did for Taschen. I have not read the Danny Fingeroth book, but both of whom I admire, they knew Stan Lee. I want to see a book that really gets into his impact by like a critical biographer. This book tries to do that, and in some ways I think it does, but in many ways I think it fails. Now, let me say this. First of all, to anybody, if you want to read a really good book on the history of Marvel and the Lee Kirby dynamic of the controversy, go read Marvel Comics: The Untold Story. That is an outstanding introductory history to this material.
Agreed.
So, and we interviewed the author many years ago on the show, actually. And Ian posted that link on the Facebook page. So I went to this book. I'm like, all right, I'm going to, obviously an open mind. I read all these different critiques, but what do I think? So here's the thing. Let me read to you from the introduction, one sentence. So the introduction starts where the author, and this I found interesting, he goes back to the Stan Lee's Romanian Jewish roots. And he tells a story from the peasant town, like his mother's family came from. And in the story, so this is, like 19th century. Apparently this guy came from America who had come from the town, and he went to America, and he came back, and he seems like he's become very wealthy, and he's passing around all these gifts, and he's kind of oohing and eyeing the people in the town. And then it comes out, according to this account, that in reality, he was just a foreman in a bed spring factory, but compared to the poverty in this Romanian village, it seemed like he was, living high on the hog. And then he ends the introduction with this sentence. Perhaps, and this is the author speaking, perhaps we are to take the story as allegory. Either way, the point stood. In the New Jerusalem they call the United States, you could make it just fine as a bullshitter.
Oh boy.
So I'm like, okay, well, all right. So that kind of tells you what kind of tone this book is going to take. And to be fair, Stan Lee was a bullshitter. That was part of his job.
Sure.
And he was tremendous at it. And the issue I have with,
hold on. What I mean by bullshitter, when you say that to me, that's somebody that's trying to sway you of something that's false.
Well, I don't. Well, that's fair, Kevin. I don't mean exactly in that. Let me finish what I'm saying. But
I know he's a promoter and that kind of salesman.
I was thinking more of him as the pitchman, as the salesman,
right.
I don't mean that as a negative. But he means in this book as a negative.
Yes.
But I agree with you. I probably should phrase that differently. But when I read that phrase, I'm like, all right, so is he going to take it in the direction that Stan Lee doesn't deserve any of the credit, and that he poached other people's ideas, and he was completely really full of it, and that's where that's a very powerful way to restart a biography about a figure like that. So I was really interested to say, okay, where is he going to take this? And what he does throughout the book. So he starts with interviews with Larry Lieber, who is Stan's often overlooked and forgotten younger brother,
right,
who has worked in comics for decades.
Yeah.
He co-wrote books, like he scripted the first Iron Man story. He did like Westerns. He did the Spider-Man newspaper strip for years, and he's still alive.
I met him in New York a few years ago.
Yeah, and he goes to his apartment, and he it's a very sad portrayal of an old man who's kind of, is at the twilight of his life, and he's talking a lot about his relationship with Stan and their family. And by the way the author presents this interview, you can see that Lieber has very ambiguous feelings about his brother and their relationship. And you'll see where I'm going with this in a second. So throughout the book, the author focuses not only on Stan's professional life, and I'll get to how he spins that in a moment, but also on his family. And when we get to the latter part of the book, when he gets into the POW entertainment years and the scandals and all, like, if you know any of this information, because like a lot of the stuff he talks about in the book, I already knew about from my own reading, but he goes into a lot more detail and the potential financial impropriety and people he was involved with. And I'm reading all this and I'm like, all right, because it's incredibly unflattering. And the way he portrays his wife, he kind of portrays almost like as like a boozy gold digger, and his daughter, who comes off as mentally unstable. And I'm reading all this and I'm like, what does any of this matter to me? Like, you're going into the family life, right, of a 95-year-old man who was clearly at the end of his life, old and probably being taken advantage of. At least that's what I've always gathered from some of the people around him. And what does this have to do with the legacy of Stan Lee? Like, it's titillating, it's salacious, but it's not important. Like, I understand, like, when I read a biography of like Abraham Lincoln, I'm not obviously putting the Stanley symbol as Abraham Lincoln, but you're going to go into Abraham's family life because his family dynamic had an impact on his emotional state when he's making decisions that involve life and death.
Right.
Okay. Or I just finished a great new biography of Hitler. Yeah, I want to know about Adolf Hitler's family life because he then went on to make decisions that killed millions of people and affected the entire planet. And how he was shaped as a kid and as a young person really matters, right? So in this book I'm reading here, you're devoting a lot of attention and time to your interpretation of Stan Lee's family life and private life, which to me is like, that's not really important in terms of why this person is a vitally important figure in our culture. And he also, to his credit, he does go into like a lot of the things Stan did and the people he worked with. There's one of the best parts of the book, actually. He interviews the reporter who's still alive, who did that infamous New York Herald Tribune article in 1966 with Lee and Kirby, which I talked about in our Jack Kirby Spotlight, which Kirby was incensed about because the way that he presented Kirby in that article. And the author's still alive. Nat Friedland, I think his name is.
Okay.
And I love that Reisman did this. He interviews the guy, and the guy expressed regret for the way he presented Kirby in the article. But what Reisman does, he basically reveals, if we're to believe his sources, that whole interview was staged and that they'd already had their story conference, which is why Kirby really wasn't even talking, and that Lee was just doing it again for the purposes of the interview. And what you find in the book is he does a lot of this, like, for example, if you read about Stan Lee's origins, he always talks about how when he was in like a teenager, like several weeks in a row, he won like this essay contest. It's in every Stan Lee like back matter biography you can ever read.
Yeah.
And he actually goes into like the archives of the newspaper, and he reveals that he never got first place. He got like 7th place or something like that. So he does a lot of that throughout the book. And Kevin, I think this is where we're going back to the whole like the bullshitting comment that he starts the book with. And I'm reading all this. I'm like, okay, so you're saying that he exaggerated and embellished stuff. Wow, what a shock. Like, you know, I guess part of it's because I already know so much about the topic that I'm taking a different interpretation than just some casual reader who's like, oh, Stan Lee was in the movies, I want to read this book.
Yeah.
And the other part of the book that really, really troubled me, and Roy Thomas goes into this in that post that someone put on our Facebook page because he reacted to the book. He doesn't come out and say that Kirby created everything and that Lee kind of used his pitchman persona to kind of poach it, but he strongly implies that. And when I read that, I'm like, okay, so I want to call the guy up and go, did you read the comics? Because if you read the comics, the evidence is overwhelming that the two of them together did all this. Because if you look at what Lee did before Kirby, and if you look at what Kirby did after Lee, you can obviously see that, you know, before Kirby, Lee was churning out like in clear boredom, these like, you know, Atlas era, you know, monster stories. And then after Lee, Kirby did his amazing visuals, but, you know, this is just my opinion, he couldn't script to worth a damn, but his plots and visuals were still genius, right? But when you look at the two men together and you see what they accomplished, to me, like, you know, I go back to a comment Murd made in one of our Spotlight episodes that always stuck with me. He said, it's 2/3 Kirby and 1/3 Lee, but that 1/3 is really important. And the book just doesn't fully, my reading of it, grasp that Lee's role as an editor, which he's probably the greatest editor in the history of American comic books.
Yeah.
When you think about his art direction, the talent that he secured, it's amazing. And the fact that he oversaw creating this universe, which was clearly his, like he was driving that. And the fact that he was adding the all-important scripting and the balloons and the captions and the letters page persona and all of that stuff. So like, let me read one, like there's one line here that strikes me. Bear with me 1 second here, where he goes, this is the author speaking. Of course, he never sold himself as comics' greatest editor, but rather as his greatest ideas man. One can argue that was a core tragedy of Stan's existence and legacy. He was never able to put his most inarguable achievements front and center, and instead opted for the ones that were the most debatable. So at the core of the book for me was, he brings up a lot of interesting information and some stuff that I didn't know, like different perspectives and insights, because he clearly did a lot of research, like the interviewing that reporter, I thought was a great moment in the book, which I thought was really interesting. But throughout the book, he doesn't flat out say it, but there's the constant theme of, you know, Stan Lee was in many ways completely full of it. And while that was part of his success, it also led him to take credit for a lot of things he didn't do. And then he brings in so much about his personal life and his family. and a lot of it is sordid. And I guess and I'm not a slavish Stan Lee devotee. I'm like, I love, the work he did as a writer in the Silver Age. I love his editing. I revere his contribution to this medium that we all love, and I think that should never be understated or undersold. But a lot of this book, I'm like, why are we reading about this? Like, this is not. I don't care about the fact that his daughter, might have been involved in financial propriety when he was basically dying, or these weird people who are around him who were probably taking advantage of him. Because when you the last, and someone mentioned this in the forum, I think the last third of the book is you just want to shower after reading it. and I don't understand what the value of that is, because all right, the theme he's kind of taking is, well, Stan Lee always seemed like, this is the author, always dissatisfied, always trying to come up with the next new idea, always trying to kind of validate, and being on the action and all this type of thing. And yeah, you could see that in his persona as he was operating over all these decades. But I'd rather read a much more in-depth analysis of the work he did in comics,
right,
and what contributions he made to the medium that were invaluable and indelible. And also, let's talk about the legitimate controversies that were there, but not in such a way that the author is basically passing judgment, at least to get the audience to infer something, and then basically taking that as a premise through the entire book. Now, he does point out that some of the things Kirby said probably weren't true either, or were misremembered or whatever. But is this a smear job? It's pretty close.
So Chris, the way you're putting it, and the way that I would describe it, and it's one of the reasons why I usually tend to avoid books of this nature. When I originally heard about this book, I thought it was interesting because I read the article that I posted originally to the supergroup, where it seemed like this was going to be pretty well balanced. That they were going to go.
Well balanced.
I know, and I certainly have seen that from many people so far. From the sounds of it, the author had made up his mind before he wrote the book.
Oh, there's no question. Well, look, the opening line I read you, and you know what? I didn't represent it well, and Kevin was right to call me on it, because that, when you read that, especially if you don't know a lot about the subject, that sets a tone for the entire book.
Oh, definitely.
Sure.
And look, did Stan Lee, I think, at times take credit for things that he didn't fully do?
Absolutely.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
And do I really fault him for when Kirby, and I think this may have contributed to Kirby even dying, actually, when Kirby was fighting to get his artwork back, and Stan Lee did not lift a finger or say anything to help him? I think that's a real sort of failing in his professional life.
Sure.
Especially considering he was already a major figure at that point. But again, he was the company guy. That's long been established. But I think the book just goes too far in trying to portray him in a way that is deeply unflattering. And look, let me say this too, and in no way am I putting myself on the same level, but in my 20 years as a teacher, you at least the way I teach, you project a persona to keep people engaged and to get them to follow along with what you're doing. But do my students really know me? No, they know a facet of me.
Right.
And obviously on a much grander level, that was part of his job, right? That's what he was doing. And he was very effective at it, and comics benefited. And while the author does go into that, to be fair, he does go into that, it as I'm reading, it's really overwhelmed by, Stan Lee as the bull crapper, Stan Lee as, someone who was taking a lot of credit for things that, he shouldn't have, or Stan Lee. And then the family stuff, he even implies that he may have been involved in willfully involved in financial shenanigans. I don't know if you know a lot about those last years with Powell and Stan Lee. There's all kinds of improprieties, and no, it was not. And to give the author credit, he really goes into that in depth, and but I'm reading, I didn't really need to know any of this stuff. I knew that he was involved, he or people around him were involved in things that were probably sordid and shady, but it's not important to me. As someone who's a real student of this history, I like just, you know what, go read tomorrow's publications. If you really want to get a good analysis of there's the Stan Lee, Lee Kirby Nuff Said book where like they break down what did Lee say, what did Kirby say, you know, how do they interpret what they contributed. That's a great book. Forget this. Like it's, and Roy Thomas put it best, like we could use a great, very critical, like, you know, even like dense Stan Lee biography. Like give that to me. There's some elements of that here, but for me, it was there was too much of an Entertainment Tonight feeling to the latter part of it, which really turned me off. I've got enough, gentlemen.
No, I hope we get there, and I hope we do actually get the biography that he so deserves. Episode 1290 of Comic Geek Speak was the interview with Sean Howe for Marvel Comics: The Untold Story. By the way,
that's a great book.
That's
a great book.
That is an excellent book, and it's also a well-rounded book where I feel like, you know, as stated before, I don't feel like Sean Howe went into that book knowing exactly where it was going to go, and I don't think he came in with a specific opinion one way or the other on it. He was just telling the story.
Absolutely, and that's a great distinction when you put it alongside.
Yep.
Excuse me, the book we're talking about here, because, you know, and again, we're talking about events that were decades ago, people's memories, what they remember, what they don't remember, what they misremember. And again, like I said before, and I'll kind of end it here, to me, so much of the evidence is just in the books. You know, you just look at like, I have to wonder, like, if this gentleman really looked at the comics. Because when you read the Sean Howe book, you can tell he really looked at the comic books.
Yeah,
I can't tell. I don't know if Abraham Reisman did, but based on what I read, I'd have to venture guess that he really didn't, or not to the degree that I think he should have. If he was going to make, you know, the strong implications that he's making. So again, to end it like this, if you want to read a good history outside of the great Tomorrow stuff about this period, just read Marvel Comics: The Untold Story.
Fair enough, sir. Fair enough. And I'm glad you read it, so I don't have to. So there we go.
Yeah. You basically just confirmed everything that I thought this book was, and that's why I really didn't have any interest in reading it.
Yeah. Yep.
Happy to take that bullet for you, Kevin.
Much appreciated.
Indeed. All right, let's roll into some quick hits on some actual comic books before we wrap things up here. I'm just going to mention that I did get a chance to read issue 1, hold it up to the camera here, of Brian Michael Bendis's Justice League. Issue 59 introduces us to the new iteration with Marquez on art as well. So it's a return of the Bendis and Marquez team for the first time in a while. This one focuses mostly on Black Adam, and I think that's going to be a major, you know, selling point for this. But of course, because it's Bendis and Bendis loves his darlings, Naomi is involved as well. And I'm not surprised, but there's a big bad that shows up that seems to share some of the same energies that Naomi shares. And we'll find out more about that in subsequent issues. But it was a good start. I think I actually got a grasp of the story that he's trying to tell here. Guy kind of comes off a bit as a herald, and I don't know whether or not he's going to try to introduce, you know, his own Galactus into the DC universe, because there have been 7 of them already. But either way, it was an enjoyable read, and I liked his take on Black Adam and the rest of the Leaguers. There's some good moments with Green Arrow and Black Canary as well in there. So worth a shot if you're a fan of Bendis to see what his Justice League is going to be like. So that was my main read of the last week or so. Murd, you read anything?
Nothing really worth mentioning, but I would like to give a little shout out to our friend Ryan Drost, Royal Lantern, because I found in my mailbox this very day the fruition of his Kickstarter campaign, his self-written and Kickstarter-published comic, Stealth Hammer. Finally made its way into the postal system, and so if you back to his campaign, you should be getting it soon. Ryan, I have not read it yet, but I look forward to it.
Very good, very good. Yep. And very glad to see that successful. Most definitely. I think I have a digital copy of that actually, sitting in my email box. So there we go with that. Shane, you read anything?
No, I really didn't. It's been a lot of work and catching up on Justice League movie.
and
Job in itself.
Shows, Superman and Lois. You know, there's so many things going on at once now. I completely understand.
Yeah.
Kevin, you get a chance to read anything?
No, unfortunately not.
Busy lives, people. Busy lives. And Chris,
All right, so
here we go.
Radiant Black issue 2.
Ooh.
Now, I was, having a fanboy orgasm about the first issue the last time we discussed this. Issue 2 is even better.
Oh, wow.
And let me tell you something. There's a scene where the main character, because he moves back in with his parents, as I mentioned, and we talked about it last time, and he's sitting at the kitchen table with his father, and they're talking about money. Let me tell you something. Kyle Higgins, this scene alone, he is one of the best writers in comics. The scene is so real and so uncomfortable. And many of us have been in a situation like that. We have that kind of conversation with a parent or with a child.
Yep.
And this book, Murd, it's already being filed away for awards for next year, because if this continues with the direction it seems to be going in, this is going to be one of the, like by a mile, one of the best books of 2021.
I don't doubt it.
I mean, the art is magnificent as well, but the writing, I mean, when capturing like someone who's like, I guess he's like 20s or maybe early 30s at the most, but in that like netherworld period of life where you're not in school anymore, but you've had certain aspirations. They're not really working out. You're not sure what you're doing. He perfectly captures that feeling. This is I mean, out of the gate, this is a book. If you love superhero comics, especially, you should be reading this book.
Very good.
The other book I wanted to mention, Ian, you'll appreciate this.
Ooh.
So I just read volume 2.
Okay.
Of the Hickman run, which I'm reading. I have the subsequent issue, but I'm reading it primarily in trade.
The Hickman run of what, for those who don't have
X-Men. Sorry, Murd. Thanks for reminding me. I'm still a neophyte with this video thing, but
no
it's just so good. I mean, it's considering how tired the X-Men can get, because we feel like we've kind of seen it all so many times before, and the fact that Hickman and his creative partners have breathed utterly new life into this franchise and taken it in a direction that reverently respects the entire history, but turns it on heads. My God, we just voted that Professor X is the villain of 2020, right? So,
yep.
But like in this arc, we've got this lengthy scene where Cyclops and Nightcrawler are debating the morality of the fact that they can resurrect mutants, and it goes on for pages.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it doesn't get better than this. Like, it's so thrilling to be excited about the X-Men the way I am when I read, because I've been excited about the X-Men in years.
Yeah.
To read this title now, and I can't wait to see. We've said this before, where this is going to go, because the way everything's going to set up, it's not going to go anywhere good at all. I can't imagine it's going to, but I'm along. I got my seatbelt on. I don't care what vicissitudes are out there and what, I'm in, because this is thrilling. Like,
I'm so super glad that Marvel got Hickman back to do this, because
that they're letting it, and they're letting him, I'm assuming anyway, tell the story he wants to tell, because he's really tapping into really uncomfortable philosophical questions and debates about what is a hero.
Yep.
The X-Men, are the X-Men even heroes now, or are they really like the military force of like a different civilization or state that's trying to like establish itself? And what do their decisions really mean? Do we even see them as the characters that we used to, or are they just something totally different now? Like, it's really heady stuff when you think about it. I mean, there's a scene in this where Apocalypse, of all characters, oversees this really creepy ritual where another character basically has to allow themselves to be killed in order to then be resurrected to regain their powers. It's really disturbing.
Yeah.
And it's great. So stay with it.
Yeah, it's not anything I ever thought X-Men would be.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's my report today.
All right. I've got one more thing for you, gents, before I forget. This past Saturday, I got to go back to Brooklyn for the first time in a little while and just go for a walk and explore. And in doing so, I got to visit Anyone Comics.
Yes.
In Crown Heights for the first time.
Gotta love that mural.
Oh, absolutely beautiful Black Panther mural on their gate when it's down. And a pretty cool logo in general for Anyone Comics with the old school Spider-Man.
Oh, they got the Ditko raising the machinery there.
Exactly, and I think that's a Superman on the side there, but
that's Spider-Man too.
Oh, that is Spider-Man. You're right. Yes. Yeah. Okay, go figure. But the shop itself is decently sized on the inside. They've got a good amount of trades and a bunch of singles on the walls, but it's the staff more than anything else that are just friendly and inviting. And it reminded me what I love about going into comic shops is just getting random conversation and then going from there. And I bought myself volume 1 of Once and Future while I was there. I was going to get Department of Truth, but they didn't have it. But I did bring it up to them that they didn't have it, and they're like, "Oh, we should have that." So I went ahead and ordered a few more copies. So for whoever comes there in the next week, they should have Department of Truth volume 1 for you sitting on the shelf there. But yeah, it was just overall a very positive experience, and I missed it. I really did, because I haven't had a comic book shop experience like this in a while. So.
What's their address, Ian?
Let me get that for you. But they're in Crown Heights by Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn. Let me get the actual full address for that for you right now.
Well, I'm glad you. It's always great to hear about an old school comic shop like that has the passion and I mean, in all the years I retailed, one of the best experiences was the people who worked for me, because there were quite a few.
Yep.
Who became family essentially, and then all the people you meet, like you guys and different customers, and that's at its heart, that's what makes a great comic shop.
1216 Union Street in Brooklyn. That's their address. 1216 Union Street.
All right.
Right by Eastern Parkway in Crown Heights, and it's it was an excellent experience, and run by a former Midtown Comics worker, if I remember correctly, because I know he's a friend of Mr. Raf Suhu. So. Definitely worth heading over and checking out if you're in the area.
Cool.
All right. Have we shot our bolts?
I think we've shot our bolt.
Excellent. Kevin, thank you for coming on.
Yes.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate
Good to see you.
Yep.
Yes.
And
likewise.
We'll hopefully see you soon for something a little bit more grounded and singular. By singular, I mean 2 volumes or something. But that's
we'll get there.
Exactly. We'll definitely get there. Yep. All righty. I think we're good to go. So I will hand it over to Shano.
Okay. Visit us at comicgeekspeak.com. To send us an email, the address is comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. To leave a voicemail, the number is 267-702-6642. Stop by thecomicforums.vanillacommunity.com. Let us know what you think of the winners, as well as Justice League, among other topics we talked about, Falcon and Winter Soldier. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, send us your Muddle the Murds. As Ian said, we're not out, but we're getting low, so please send them in so we have some more to pull from. Thanks to everyone who contributes to the show and supports us. We really appreciate it. You make it possible for us to keep going. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.
The slow fade, just the way I like it.